Chapter 561. Etianyun's speed soared to the extreme. He could see everything from a distance, but his speed was still too slow. Even if he used teleportation, it was still too slow. In the end, he could only watch the spirit race old ancestor die, and in order to protect his people, he chose to resist the palm strike. If he didn't burn his blood essence to resist the palm strike, there would be a lot of casualties. After all, the majority of the people here had low cultivation. In the face of this terrifying palm strike, even if it was weakened a lot, he still couldn't resist it. Who? Su Guolin hurriedly turned his head. He felt a terrible aura coming from behind, and when he turned his head, he saw 4 people riding on the ice phoenix flying towards him. Su Guolin suddenly felt that something was wrong, especially this terrible aura. It made him feel powerless. The person who will kill you. Etianyun stepped on the ice phoenix and instantly disappeared into thin air. Su Guolin was immediately stunned. How did he suddenly disappear? The next moment, a figure appeared in front of him, and suddenly waved the heavenly nether divine sword in his hand. Su Guolin didn't even have time to react. He only saw a flash of silver light. When he wanted to move, he found his head flying high, and at the last moment, he saw Etianyun's terrifying eyes. Even at the moment of his death, he didn't know how the other party had arrived. There was clearly a large distance between them, so how did the other party suddenly appear in front of him? Ding! Successfully killed Su Guolin. Reward, 410 million EXP, 5000 crazy point, 15,000 SBS. Obtained martial art golden essence palm, golden mortal secret art. Reward, diamond armor, mid-grade sacred tool, diamond boots, mid-grade sacred tool, diamond godstone, rare material. Ding! Congratulations to player Etianyun for successfully breaking through to Void Spirit Peak stage. Etianyun used the 50 times EXP bonus card to increase his EXP to 66 times. There are so many cultivators here, naturally he wanted to harvest them all. In order to become stronger, no matter how angry he was, he couldn't forget this point. If he wanted to take revenge, he needed to be stronger, otherwise, everything else would be useless. In the blink of an eye, Su Guolin was killed. The terrifying power shocked everyone. Everyone witnessed Su Guolin's strength. A Spirit King stage cultivator was killed by a single sword strike? Who are you? We are from the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom. If you attack us, our heavenly netherworld divine kingdom will not let you off. Their voices were trembling. Their leader had been killed, so how could they deal with it? I will kill your heavenly netherworld divine kingdom. Etianyun laughed coldly and quickly rushed in. Even with a swing of his sword, he was killed in a single strike. He did not hold back at all. Even if he didn't need to use that much power to deal with them, his crazy damage mode was still activated. He was thoroughly enraged. He did not expect that he would still be a step too late in the end. If he had been a step slower, the spirit race patriarch would have died. Fortunately, they weren't too slow. Otherwise, more people would have died. In his madness, most of the lives were easily harvested by him. For a moment, they were in a state of chaos and immediately fled in all directions. However, Ren Liangchen and the others flew over and quickly joined in the slaughter. The Ice Phoenix kept spewing out netherworld flames to freeze them. The power of the Ice Phoenix was even more ferocious, and it was at the Void Spirit stage. You want to escape? Go to hell. Etianyun roared and released all of his core transformation stage pets. These were all demon beasts that he had captured before. He didn't release them when he was down there, mainly because he didn't want to attract people's attention. In order to kill all the trash as soon as possible, Etianyun released all of his demon beasts. For a moment, thousands of demon beasts roared and rushed towards the cultivators on the side. The sudden appearance of a large number of demon beasts scared Ren Liangchen and the others. The cultivators of the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom were also scared out of their wits. Why did so many demon beasts suddenly appear? The people of the spirit race in the heavenly cloud's imperial capital were shocked by what they saw. That was indeed their spirit king. Spirit king. Spirit king. Spirit king. Spirit king. Spirit king. Avenge the old ancestor. Avenge the old ancestor. Our king. Our king! They roared in excitement. It was more of a catharsis than anything else. They had been suppressing their fear all this while. Their old ancestor was dead, and the anger in their hearts was even more intense. Some cultivators were knocked down from the treasure ship, and when they still had a breath left, they madly rushed out and killed the spirit race clansmen. In the face of the invaders, they didn't show any mercy. However, everything was over soon. Lee Dun-yun summoned thousands of demon beasts and crushed everything in his way. In just a short time, the ground was already covered with corpses, and the ground was dyed red with blood. It was a shocking scene to see. This was war, and it was either you die or I die. After the battle was over, Lee Tianyun quickly recalled all of his pets. It was too shocking to leave them outside, so he decided to train them into a team of demon beasts. Qingxian, I came back late. Lee Tianyun landed beside Yi Qingxian and saw the old ancestor of the spirit race lying in her arms. He didn't die in peace because he knew that Lee Tianyun would come back to avenge them. I didn't come back late. It's just that the old ancestor... Yi Qingxian wanted to hold back her tears, but she couldn't help it. The backbone of the spirit race was gone just like that. Although the old ancestor of the spirit race was old, he still had a lot of life left. Usually, he was very kind to them, and he even stood up for them at the critical moment. Don't worry. Although it's a painful memory, it will heal soon. Lee Tianyun looked at the old ancestor with respect, but he wasn't sad. Yi Qingxian nodded. She thought that Lee Tianyun was comforting her. Although it was painful, people who were alive still had to work hard to live and continue to fight. At this time, Lee Tianyun squatted down, and a light appeared on his palm. He slowly placed it on the old ancestor's chest. In a short time, the injuries on the old ancestor's body disappeared, and he even became 10 years younger. Then he slowly opened his eyes. Hey, is this the legendary spirit realm? Why is the Spirit King here, and why is the Saintess here? This. Yi Qingxian covered her mouth in surprise. Their old ancestor came back to life, and he even became much younger. It was a miracle. Old ancestor, you are not dead, I have brought you back to life. Lee Tianyun smiled slightly. He used his precious life to save the old ancestor of the spirit race, and it was worth 100 million crazy points. He had a total of 3 crazy points, and now he gave one to the old ancestor. This thing was very precious, but he felt that the old ancestor of the spirit race deserved it. He knew that the old ancestor of the spirit race had sacrificed for him over the years. For him, the old ancestor really regarded him as the king of the spirit race and supported him unconditionally. Chapter 562. I'm alive? Spirit race old ancestor was shocked. He thought that he was going to die, and he even lost consciousness. He didn't expect that he would come back to life in the blink of an eye. After confirming that he was alive, he confirmed that he was indeed alive, and he was even a dozen years younger. Tianyun thought that the effect was amazing. He didn't expect that not only was he alive, but he was also a dozen years younger. Yes, you are alive. Lee Tianyun said with a smile. Thank you, Spirit King. Yi Qingxian wiped her tears of joy. She didn't expect that their old ancestor would really come back to life. The other spirit race members couldn't believe what they saw. Immediately, they cheered. All of this was so incredible, but they all knew that Lee Tianyun must have used some kind of best-grade medicinal pill. Otherwise, how could he save the old ancestor? They could see that the old ancestor was dead, and it would cost them a lot to save him. For a time, Lee Tianyun's prestige instantly rose to the peak, and it was even more prestigious than before. Spirit King, I don't know what medicinal pill you gave me, but it's really a waste. Spirit race old ancestor shook his head. It was a good thing that he was alive, but he could imagine that it was definitely not an ordinary medicinal pill. It was really a waste to give it to himself. If he kept it for himself, it would be equivalent to having an extra life. They were right. It was indeed very rare, but Lee Tianyun still had 2 lives. He believed that there would definitely be more in the future. As long as he worked hard to complete the quest, there would always be a quest related to this. There is no such thing as a waste. You have paid so much for the sect, And if you are not willing to give this little bit of help, it would be too disappointing. Yi Tianyun said with a smile. Moreover, medicinal pills are external objects. It's good that you can survive. Besides, the Heavenly Clouds Empire still needs the old ancestor to manage it. Spirit Race Old Ancestor got up and was deeply moved by Yi Tianyun's words. Spirit King, as long as you don't mind this old man, I am willing to go through fire and water for you. Successfully subdued Spirit Race Old Ancestor as a divine general, gaining 50 million EXP, 100. 000 crazy point, 100 commander points. A notification popped up, indicating that he had successfully subdued the Spirit Race Ancestor as a divine general. He had also obtained a large pile of experience points, which was truly shocking. It seemed that the rewards for truly subduing a divine general were quite plentiful. The higher one's rank, the more experience points they would receive. The ancestor of the spirit tribe was saved, so he was more willing to follow Yi Tianyun's orders. Therefore, it was only natural that he became a divine general. Although the others were very loyal to him, the meaning was different. It was not as bold as saving them. What's there to despise? We can all see how much you've sacrificed. Tianyun smiled, and then his eyes darkened. These are the forces of the heavenly netherworld divine nation. They came from the netherworld world. I destroyed 2 ships along the way. According to the situation, I'm afraid that they will continue to send people over, so we must be extremely careful. Everyone nodded. If it weren't for Yi Tianyun's timely return, they would have been completely finished. As they occupied this territory, they felt that they had a bit of confidence in front of the empire. But now, it seemed that they didn't have such confidence at all. Now, only a small number of experts came, and they were completely crushed. They couldn't resist at all. Just the number of Void Spirit stage experts alone was much more than theirs. It was a complete suppression. Then they began to get busy and quickly repair the surrounding situation. After this battle, the loss was not too big. Most of the damage was just divine runes and other things. There was no problem with this. As long as people were still alive, everything could be repaired. At the same time, Yi Tianyun arranged for Ren Liangchen and the others to help. They were already part of the Heavenly Clouds mansion, so they must help here. When the work was done, Yi Tianyun patrolled the main hall and nodded repeatedly. He was quite satisfied. The preliminary construction had been completed, and the speed was still very fast. Of course, it was extremely efficient to let the cultivators build the buildings. Especially when it was the spirit race who built the buildings. They had some attainments in this area, which could be seen in the spirit race forest before. The houses were built very beautifully, and they were especially careful when it came to the construction. This was their imperial capital in the future, so they had to be very careful. Is there any news about the vital crystal? Yi Tianyun asked. This was related to the reproduction of the spirit race, so of course, they needed to pay attention to it. There is no news about it for the time being. The spirit race old ancestor sighed. This was a knot in their heart, but it was still okay. As long as their life was stable, they didn't need to worry about it for a while. Moreover, the previous vital crystal was not broken yet, so it could still last for a while. Yi Tianyun nodded and said, I will pay more attention to this in the future. It is indeed too rare, it is not easy to find. We can only look for it. If we can't find it, it can only be said that God is not willing to let us go. The spirit race old ancestor sighed and said, Don't worry, there must be a way to solve it. Yi Tianyun frowned. When he was in the ghost world, he had inquired about it, but there was nothing about it in this area. Needless to say, in the mortal world, if there was, with their current power, they would have already obtained it. Is it in the heaven realm? Yi Tianyun squinted his eyes and thought of a new place, the heaven realm. They had not searched the heaven realm, and they didn't even know how to go up there, so how could they find it? Spirit King, there is something I should tell you. Yi Qingxian hesitated, not knowing whether to say it or not. What is it? Yi Tianyun looked at her, and his heart sank. Judging from Yi Qingxuan's expression, it was obviously not a small matter, and it was a big matter. Palace mistress sure, she was taken away. Yi Qingxian said awkwardly. What? Yi Tianyun's voice immediately dropped to the freezing point, and his aura suddenly erupted, causing the whole room to become extremely cold and the temperature to drop more than 10 degrees. He was just about to finish this matter and go to meet with Shi Shuiyun, but who knew that she was taken away? Who took her away? Yi Tianyun quickly calmed down, and when his aura was suppressed, they felt relieved, but they were even more shocked by his strength. Just his aura alone was enough to make them gasp for breath, and he was much stronger than the previous Spirit King stage powerhouse. I heard that it was an acquaintance, but I don't know who he is, and he is from the heaven realm. Yi Qingxian continued. Before Palace Mistress Shi left, she said that she will go to find your parents first, and she will come back soon. Go to find my parents? Yi Tianyun was startled. My parents sent someone to pick me up? Chapter 563. The sudden news really caught Yi Tianyun off guard. It was beyond his expectations. No wonder Yi Qingxian was too embarrassed to say it out. She was worried that he would be too excited. Everyone could see that Yi Tianyun had a good relationship with Shi Shuiyun. If there was anyone who was closest to him, it would undoubtedly be Shi Shuiyun. The rest of the women, including Yi Qingxian, could not get close to him. Only Shi Shuiyun felt that they could get close to him. Now, his reaction was just as they had expected. He was quite angry. Yi Qingxian thought in her heart, she doesn't know when Yi Tianyun will do the same to her. This person did not seem to be sent by your parents. It seems that he was a cultivator from the heaven realm. When he passed by, he saw that Palace Mistress Shi was extremely talented and praised her profound ice divine body, so he took her away. At first, Palace Mistress Shi was unwilling, but she still decided to follow him. In the end, she left this sentence. Yi Qingxian said in detail. So that's how it is. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. Obviously, someone from the heaven realm came down to take a look. In the end, he saw that Shi Shuiyun was a good seedling, so he brought her up to train her. He had already seen through Shi Shuiyun's situation. Her physique was quite outstanding, but he did not know what kind of physique it was. Even the appraisal eye could not detect it. There were many things that could not be detected in detail. This had to be upgraded. Therefore, it was natural for her to be brought up to the heaven realm. The key was that she went up to find his parents. Could it be that his parents were from the heaven realm? Parents? Yi Tianyun had no feelings for these so-called parents. He had no impression of them at all. Thinking about it, he felt that it did not matter. For him, the most important thing was Shi Shuiyun. As for other relatives, even if they were really related by blood, they would have to step aside if they annoyed him. After all, they were related by blood, but what was the point of not knowing them? Without any feelings, he would definitely step aside. It could only be said that Shi Shuiyun's final consideration of going up was not for her own future, but to help find her parents. He did not know how to go up to the heaven realm, so he could only follow that person up. How strong is that cultivator? Yi Tianyun asked with a frown. I remember that she was a very young female cultivator in her 30s. She was even stronger than the experts sent by the Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom. At least that's the aura emanating from it. The spirit race ancestor replied. After thinking for a moment, he continued, at that time, we thought they were here to cause trouble. Fortunately, they were just passing by as guests and had no interest in us. It just so happened that he took a fancy to Palace Master Shi, so he took her away. However, after taking it away, they also gave us a considerable amount of resources. For example, sacred artifacts and grade 5 and 6 medicinal pills. They are quite a lot. They even have 1 or 2 tier martial arts. Their wealth is truly enough to put us to shame. The old ancestor of the spirit race shook his head. The things that the other party had tossed out were thrown to them as though they were trash. On the contrary, they treasured it very much. To them, this was something that they could never obtain normally. Tianyun nodded. He is very clear about this point. The cultivation is not high. This is the case. The other party came from the heaven realm, so he was a spirit king stage expert. Sacred artifacts were just ordinary to them, so it was natural to give them some compensation for taking away such an excellent disciple. Heaven realm, Yi Tianyun's heart sank. Now, he wanted to find Shi Shuiyun and drag her back. He didn't want to look for his so-called parents. They could do whatever they wanted, and it didn't matter if they didn't see each other for the rest of their lives. In order to help him find his parents, he went to the heaven realm alone. God knows what kind of power that was. What if he treated her badly? The assessment of the heaven realm must be very strict, and he would have to go through layers of hardships. Thinking of this, Lee Tianyun shook his head. He wanted to find Shi Shuayun, but the situation did not allow him to do so. The Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom was eyeing him covetously. If he didn't destroy the Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom, he wouldn't be able to go to the heaven realm. He didn't need to know the way to the heaven realm. He only needed to improve his cultivation to the Spirit King stage, then he could go to the heaven realm through the Heaven Ascending Divine Altar. The problem was how to deal with the Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom. The Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom was a Saint King stage expert. Even if he broke through to the Spirit King stage, he might not be able to deal with it. Unless he was at the Spirit King stage, and with the help of the crazy mode, he would have a great chance to kill it. Or if he was at the Spirit King stage, it would be even easier. Let's stabilize the situation here first. Lee Tianyun nodded and immediately made a decision. Shi Shuayun's life wouldn't be in danger. After all, the situation wasn't as serious as he thought. Even if he recruited an excellent disciple, he would definitely be treated well. If he is held hostage, he will kill his way to heaven realm. No matter who it is, he must hand over Shi Shuayun. What was left was the general situation. The overall situation was developing in a positive way, and it could be said that it was thriving with each passing day. The establishment of the Heavenly Clouds Empire wasn't a big problem. It just needed some time to be successfully established. After everything was settled, everyone went back to their own business. When Lee Tianyun walked out of the main hall, he wanted to continue patrolling and go to the Heavenly Clouds Temple. Jiao Lingyun happened to come over from the side. Mansion Lord. Jiao Lingyun had become very capable. Her appearance hadn't changed much, but her eyes had become very spirited. Compared to before, when she didn't have much confidence, she was now very confident. All of this confidence came from her strength. She was a peak 5th grade Divine Rune Master. Once she became a Divine Rune Master, she would become a monster. In the entire Heavenly Clouds Empire, except for Lee Tianyun, Jiao Lingyun was the only one who could keep up with him. It wasn't because of her Divine Rune Master level, but because of her age. The old ancestor of the spirit race was the strongest Divine Rune Master, but he was already very old. Jiao Lingyun was still very young. In a few years, she would definitely become a Divine Rune Master. With such talent, it wouldn't be a problem for her to surpass the old ancestor of the spirit race in the future. Calling me Mansion Lord is too formal. It's better to call me Big Brother E. I haven't seen you for a few days, and it seems that you have made a lot of progress. Lee Tianyun looked at Jiao Lingyun and felt very satisfied. He brought her back because of his kindness. He didn't expect that kindness would bring him a genius who could become a Divine Rune Grandmaster in the future. Yes, Big Brother. Jiao Lingyun smiled sweetly, and her beautiful eyes showed a hint of joy. Buzz. Buzz. At this time Tianyun felt a noise coming from his chest. He quickly took out the jade pendant from his chest and found that the jade pendant had a huge reaction. This reaction wasn't to anyone, but to Jiao Lingyun. Chapter 564. Lee Tianyun didn't expect that Jiao Lingyun was the descendant of the heaven-creating Divine King. He thought that the descendant of the heaven-creating Divine King would be in the underworld. The most important thing was that she was so close to him. She was the descendant of a Divine King. Even if her bloodline was extremely thin, the effect was still amazing. After thoroughly excavating her bloodline, Jiao Lingyun's talent was brought into full play. At a young age, she had already reached the peak of the Divine Rune Master level. At this time, her talent manifested. Although he didn't know which generation she was from, her bloodline was still inherited. It was very likely that with the improvement of cultivation, her bloodline would gradually awaken, and there would be signs of atavism. At that time, she might become the second heaven-creating Divine King. It was simply incredible. An ordinary-looking girl may become the second heaven-creating Divine King in the future. Just thinking about it made him feel scared. He remembered the previous task of cultivating a saintess. It was definitely related to this. If she didn't have talent, it would be impossible for such a task to appear. Thinking about it carefully, he had already kept a person who was likely to become a divine king by his side. If he didn't lead Jiao Lingyun into the sect, no matter how strong her bloodline was, it would be useless. Or rather, Yi Tianyun was just an ordinary cultivator. Without excellent martial arts and a large number of resources, he couldn't become a divine king. To become a real powerhouse, it was not possible to rely on bloodline alone. A large number of resources were needed to cultivate it. This was also the case for divine beasts. Without a good environment and a large number of resources, it was impossible to cultivate a powerhouse. What descendant of the heaven-creating divine king? Jiao Lingyun was confused. She didn't know what Yi Tianyun was talking about. Yi Tianyun looked at her confused expression and smiled knowingly. You will know this later. Come with me now. After saying that, he turned and walked towards the cultivation hall. Although Jiao Lingyun was confused, she still obeyed his order and walked in. Soon, they walked into a cultivation room. Yi Tianyun slammed the door of the cultivation room and closed it tightly. There were only 2 of them in the whole room. Jiao Lingyun couldn't help but blush. It was very likely that something would happen when a man and a woman were in the same room. Although she believed in Yi Tianyun's character, she was still hoping for something. Unfortunately, she thought too much. Yi Tianyun couldn't possibly do anything to her. Yi Tianyun approached her and reached out to grab her head. He whispered, "Relax, I'll give you some of my memories." Immediately, a stream of memory energy surged over. It was all the contents of the inheritance of the heaven-creating divine king, and it was transmitted over without any reservation. Although the heaven-creating divine king's item was very good, it could only be regarded as good for him. No matter how strong it was, could it compare to his own system? A single crazy mode was enough to crush all martial arts. As the memories continued to flow into Jiao Lingyun's mind, she was immediately shocked by the vast amount of memories. This was especially so for the insights and memories regarding the Creator. This was a Creator-level divine inscriptionist, a legendary existence. Yet, Yi Tianyun sent it to her without reservation, which shocked her greatly. However, she had already made up her mind, so she quickly calmed down and focused on absorbing the memory. As a divine inscriptionist, her main focus was on the cultivation of the soul, so there would definitely be no mistakes in her memory. Very quickly, he transferred all his memories, including the universe divine technique. Although this thing was very good, it was something that he had made a vow to pass on. If he could pass it on casually, he would definitely pass it on to those close to him. It had to be said that this was the best martial art he had obtained so far. A martial art that could be cultivated to the God-King level, how could he not want to share it with his friends? After passing everything to her, Yi Tianyun slowly released his hand. Jiao Lingyun just stood there, carefully comprehending the memory. He didn't do anything, just sat next to her, waiting for Jiao Lingyun to recover from the memory. He didn't know how long it had been. "Big brother Yi, how long have I been here?" Jiao Lingyun felt very embarrassed. She saw Yi Tianyun sitting on the side. It seemed that he had been guarding her. "Not long, it's just a little while." Yi Tianyun smiled and stood up. This was not nonsense. For Jiao Lingyun, it seemed like a long time had passed, but in fact, it was just a little while. Wandering in the sea of memories, of course, it seemed like a long time, but in fact, it was just a little while. It's good that it's not too long. She was afraid of delaying Yi Tianyun's time, and immediately said excitedly, "Big brother Yi, the memory you gave me is too precious. This is the experience of a creator, and there is a lot of experience. It's really too precious, and those martial arts." She didn't even know where to start. Everything was too much and too precious. This was a matter of course. This was the memory of a god king, and the things given by it were things that even a Saint King stage powerhouse would fight for, let alone Jiao Lingyun, who had a relatively low cultivation. Although Yi Tianyun had given her a lot of divine inscriptions before, it was still a lot worse than the heaven-creating divine king. After all, he was a creator. "It's okay, it's all yours." Yi Tianyun thought for a while and explained, I got these from the ghost world, and you are the descendant of the heaven-creating divine king. Tianyun said the general content of the memory, that is, Jiao Lingyun's life experience, but he didn't know under what circumstances she came to the mortal world. It's very likely that her parents felt that they couldn't survive in the ghost world, so they brought her to the mortal world. Regardless of the reason, this inheritance was brought to her. Tianyun thought that it would be very difficult to find a descendant, but he didn't expect to find one so quickly. Successfully completed, find heaven creating divine king's descendant, reward, 200 million EXP, 500. 000 crazy points, 100 heaven creating divine king's descendant's descendant. A pop-up window popped up at this time, and a lot of EXP entered his account. He thought that it would be difficult to find a descendant, but it seems that this is fate. If it were someone else, they would really have to look for a long time. I am the descendant of a god king. Jiao Lingyun was stunned. She really didn't expect her life experience to be so amazing. She had always thought that she was very ordinary. Who knew that the sudden news would scare her? Yes, so cultivate well, don't bury the name of the heaven-creating divine king. Tianyun reached out and patted her shoulder, and said with a smile, "It seems that this is my luck. Having a descendant of the heaven-creating divine king by my side is really a big advantage." Chapter 565. After hearing Tianyun's words, Jiao Lingyun smiled slightly, slowly knelt on one knee on the ground, and lowered her head. "It is my greatest fortune to be able to stay by Big Brother Yi's side." Her voice was full of sincerity. She knew that her identity was not simple, and she was the descendant of the heaven-creating divine king. Jiao Lingyun was very clear about the concept of the god king. It was the most powerful existence. As a descendant, she more or less had some blood in her, but for her, the kindness that Tianyun gave her was difficult to repay in this life. For this reason, she has been working hard to help Tianyun. This time, she carved a lot of divine runes for the heavenly cloud's imperial capital. She knew that she didn't repay any kindness by doing this. As long as she stayed here, she would feel that she was always receiving Tianyun's kindness. Although this was a bit exaggerated, Tianyun had given her a lot of resources in this regard, but he never thought that Jiao Lingyun would do anything for him. Even though Jiao Lingyun now knew that she was the descendant of the heaven-creating divine king, she still didn't feel proud at all. Instead, she was grateful to Tianyun for his kindness. If it weren't for Tianyun, how would she know about this matter? "What are you talking about? You are now the descendant of the heaven-creating divine king, and your future achievements will not be low." Tianyun hurriedly helped her up. He really didn't know what to say when she knelt down so easily. "No matter how high my achievements are, you will always be my big brother I am always willing to accompany you and serve you." Jiao Lingyun's beautiful eyes twinkled. Under her ordinary appearance, she had a pair of beautiful eyes. They were crystal clear and beautiful. "It's enough that you have the heart, cultivate well, and don't bury your talent." Tianyun patted her on the shoulder and said with a smile, "If there is anything you don't understand, just come to me." Everything that needed to be said had been said clearly, and the rest was up to her to do. He believed that with Jiao Lingyun's understanding she would definitely do better. After that, Tianyun left the cultivation room and walked outside. Jiao Lingyun clenched her fists and murmured, "Big brother I will definitely help you, ding." Successfully completed the intermediate Saintess training task, gaining 100 million EXP, 100. 000 crazy point, 300 prestige point, 1 super enhanced lottery roulette ticket. After walking for a while, a message suddenly popped up that stunned him. It was actually an intermediate Saintess training mission. It seemed that there was also an advanced Saintess training mission. This was the same as before, and he would be able to obtain quite a large reward. It seems like the Heavenly Clouds Empire's Saintess will belong to Jiao Lingyun. For now, he wouldn't announce the legend of Jiao Lingyun becoming the Saintess. Everything would depend on her own efforts. When her prestige was high enough, everything would fall into place, and he wouldn't need to push her behind the scenes. "I even got a chance at the enhanced lottery roulette. Let me use it." Tianyun opened the lottery roulette as he walked, and the huge lottery roulette immediately rotated. He also activated Luck Aura, and his luck suddenly skyrocketed. He didn't have to worry about who would see the lottery roulette. Anyway, what he drew would fall naturally, and there wouldn't be any interference. Stop! Under Yi Tianyun's instruction, the needle quickly stopped, and in the end, the needle pointed to a divine skill. Yi Tianyun's heart skipped a beat. He finally got a divine skill from the enhanced lottery roulette. What kind of godly skill would be drawn from such an amazing lottery roulette? Ding dong! At this time, a wooden box fell and entered the inventory. Yi Tianyun silently opened the wooden box, and soon, the wooden box slowly opened, and a divine skill appeared in the divine skill column. Eye of Charm can charm the cultivator within Spirit King stage, excluding Spirit King stage, and they will absolutely obey your command. Level 1, no time limit. Once the connection is disconnected, there will be an hour cooldown. Can only control one person. Next level requires 2 million crazy points. Divine skill. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. It really is a divine skill. As long as he successfully controls someone, there is no time limit. This means that as long as he can control one person, he will be able to control them until they die, or until Yi Tianyun disconnects the control. This divine skill is definitely cruel. If it weren't for the 2-hour cooldown, he would have really gone berserk. He would have had no problem incessantly killing each other. This is really a good thing. It seems that this thing needs to be upgraded immediately. Ding! Successfully deducted 2 million crazy points, successfully upgraded Eye of Charm. Next level requires 10 million crazy points. Successfully leveled up the Eye of Enchantment. The Eye of Enchantment has been strengthened. The cooldown time has been reduced to half an hour. The Eye of Enchantment has been successfully leveled up. This was the first time he obtained a divine skill, and he immediately upgraded it because the effect was too tempting. But after the upgrade, the effect was still a bit low. He thought that he could immediately increase the cultivation of the person he controlled to Spirit King stage, but it seems that he thought too much. It seems that he needs to continue upgrading it to Spirit King stage. But overall, the cooldown is reduced, and he can still control 2 people, which is already quite good. Again. Ding! Successfully deducted 10 million crazy points, successfully upgraded Eye of Charm. Next level requires 50 million crazy points. Successfully leveled up the Eye of Enchantment. The Eye of Enchantment has been enhanced. The cooldown time has been reduced to 30 minutes, half an hour. The user can now control 3 cultivators who are below the 5th layer of Spirit King stage. Finally, after upgrading 2 levels, Yi Tianyun could control cultivators within 5th layer Spirit King stage, but it was a pity that he could only control cultivators within 5th layer Spirit King stage. It seems that I need to upgrade it to 4th layer Spirit King stage to be able to control all the cultivators within Spirit King stage, but 50 million crazy points. Yi Tianyun shook his head. If he had 50 million crazy points, he might as well upgrade crazy mode. It was precisely because he didn't have enough crazy points that he couldn't upgrade crazy mode. But if he really had 50 million crazy points, he might not be able to upgrade crazy mode. In order to upgrade crazy mode, Yi Tianyun needed to be at the 5th layer of Spirit King stage. This was what he saw when he checked the divine skill. The line of words was quite small, so if he didn't look carefully, he wouldn't have noticed it. He had to admit that this was really a scam. Otherwise, it would be a tragedy if he didn't know that he couldn't upgrade crazy point. Chapter 566. After leveling up, Yi Tianyun was satisfied. The next time he faced a Spirit King stage cultivator, he didn't need to kill them immediately. He would make good use of their strength to help him open up a path. This would undoubtedly reduce the feeling of fighting alone. Of course, he could rely on his doppelganger to fight against a group of people. The main reason why he could level up so many times in a row was that he could control the enemy and get more information. This was the reason why he leveled up like crazy. If he was worried about fighting a group of people alone, he would have leveled up his doppelganger a long time ago instead of leveling up his Eye of Charm twice. For the Divine Nation, only Spirit King stage cultivators were valuable. Therefore, he could get more information from a Spirit King stage cultivator. This was the reason why he leveled up so many times. After he charms others, he can get information from them immediately. He can also send a spy to help him gather information. This was not controlling others, it was equivalent to having a pet. Not bad, this lottery is worth it. It's just that the price is a bit expensive, otherwise I would really want to do it a few more times. Tianyun shook his head. He wanted to spend a few million crazy points on the lottery, but the consumption was too high. If he still had the reward for killing a Spirit King stage cultivator, he wouldn't need to worry about this anymore. After the lottery, Tianyun went out to summon all the experts within the core transformation realm. One by one, they stopped what they were doing and gathered around Tianyun. Today, I asked you to come here for a simple reason. I want you to have your own pet companion. After he said that, he waved his hand, and hundreds of demon beasts appeared on the spacious field. They had seen so many demon beasts before, but they didn't know that Tianyun asked them to come here to let them choose their pets. Spirit King, you mean we can choose these demon beasts as our pets? They swallowed their saliva and felt shocked. Having a powerful demon beast as a pet was the ability of a beast tamer. They were not beast tamers, so they didn't think too much about it. Yes, you can rest assured that these demon beasts will not betray you. They will listen to all your instructions. He only needed to let these pets recognize them. He didn't need to do anything else. If everything was distributed like this, once a big battle broke out, he would also gain a lot of experience. Pets killing monsters was like his divine general killing enemies, and he would also gain experience as a reward. The problem was that it was difficult to control pets remotely, so it was easiest for them to control everything themselves. Everyone could see the shock in each other's eyes, but more of it was ecstasy. Immediately, they began to choose their own pets. Soon, many demon beasts were distributed to all the core transformation experts as pets. At this time, many core transformation stage cultivators were very excited, and their impression of Tianyun increased crazily. Originally, there were too few core transformation stage cultivators who reached the standard. It meant that only a few core transformation stage cultivators had more than 200 favorability points towards him. Especially now that his force had expanded a lot, some strong cultivators chose to join him, but they still didn't know much about Tianyun. Now, with such a reward, Lin Fan's favorability towards him skyrocketed. After arranging for the core transformation stage cultivators, they arranged for the spirit core stage cultivators, layer by layer. He had too many demon beasts, and they were always in the pet space, so it was best to arrange for them to be trained. Although he could summon thousands of demon beasts, their cultivation level was still too low for him. It would be more meaningful if they could have a higher cultivation level. After everything was arranged, he immediately went to Heavenly Cloud's mansion and arranged for these demon beasts. Basically, those who were above the spirit core stage were given these demon beasts to be managed by them. For a time, the whole Heavenly Cloud's mansion was in an uproar. How could they not be happy when the mansion lord returned with so many good things? All of a sudden, their prestige skyrocketed, and those who didn't join Heavenly Cloud's mansion rushed to join. Becoming a disciple of Heavenly Cloud's mansion would give them a lot of rewards and martial arts, so how could they not join? Mansion Lord, about Palace Lord Shi's matter? Yue and the others came over one after another. Just like Yi Qingxian, they also knew about this matter. I already know about this matter. Tianyun nodded and said, You know. Yue and the others looked at each other, and after seeing that Tianyun was fine, they were relieved. Mansion Lord, what do you think now? I don't have any thoughts. After dealing with things here, I will go to the heaven realm. Tianyun said solemnly. You have to bring Palace Mistress Shi back. She's sacrificed too much for this place. How could she just leave like that? I feel that Palace Mistress Shi left because of you, potentate. Otherwise, why would she leave this place? Tianyun was silent. How could he not know? If they went to the heaven realm, how could they meet again? The key was to go to a strange place, but the familiar place was here. If he left alone, he was afraid that there would be more disputes. I will. Tianyun's eyes turned cold. First of all, He had to improve his cultivation level and complete the main mission. As long as he could suppress the cultivation of the Spirit King stage, he would be able to move freely. After all, so what if he was a Saint King? He couldn't even ascend, so what was there to worry about? As long as he could stabilize the situation here, he would immediately go to the heaven realm and bring back the willful Shi Shuayun. I hope they won't let me know that Ant was forced to go, otherwise. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed with killing intent. If the other party threatened Shi Shuayun that if she didn't go to the heaven realm, he would destroy her sect. If that was really the case, even if it was the forces of the heaven realm, he would still kill them. Mansion Lord, there is a messenger from the Heavenly Dragon Empire asking to see you. A guard hurried in and said, Messenger from the Heavenly Dragon Empire? Yi Tianyun thought for a moment and said, Let him in. Soon, the messenger from the Heavenly Dragon Empire hurried in from outside. His cultivation was at the core transformation stage, so if he wanted to come here, he must be able to fly. Greetings, Your Highness. The messenger from the Heavenly Dragon Empire said respectfully. What happened to the Heavenly Dragon Empire? Yi Tianyun asked directly. Usually, the Heavenly Dragon Empire would not send messengers to the Heavenly Dragon Empire if there was nothing important. Your Highness, something bad has happened. There are 4 empires that have gathered together and are planning to kill both of us. The messenger from the Heavenly Dragon Empire said solemnly. Chapter 567. The forces of the 4 empires want to attack us? Yi Tianyun's gaze turned cold, his eyes flashed with killing intent. At this critical juncture, there were actually people who wanted to make a move on him. He didn't know who gave them the guts. Yes, the forces of the 4 empires have gathered and formed an alliance of empires. They are preparing to attack our Heavenly Dragon Empire. It should be said that they are already advancing this way. The emissary wiped off his cold sweat. They were already attacking this way. If they were a little slower, they would have already killed their way to the Heavenly Dragon Imperial capital. Why are they attacking us? Yi Tianyun asked. Have you investigated clearly? It might be for the territory, it might be for the treasures, or it might even be for the martial arts. He wanted to know why they chose to attack this place. They had always minded their own business, and the places occupied by the other empires were not any worse than the areas they were in. But now, there were 4 empires that had joined hands to attack them. This was a little strange. If he did not exist under the combined forces of the 4 empires, they would definitely lose. However, to destroy the 2 of them, they would definitely have to pay a huge price. Although he could still afford this price, if he didn't have a target, he would be at a great disadvantage if he attacked casually. Especially between the empires, there was definitely a connection, but if their relationship was very good and they formed an alliance, it would be even rarer. Especially for the alliance of the 4 empires, if there was no power to combine, it would be impossible. I'm not sure about that. They came very suddenly. Right now, our borders have completely fallen, and in a few days, they will completely kill their way to our Heavenly Dragon Imperial capital. The divine envoy kept wiping off his cold sweat, his face pale. This was not because he was scared, but because he had been rushing over at his fastest speed and had consumed too much spirit energy, causing his spirit energy to be basically depleted. This was an extremely urgent situation. How could he not be anxious? He flew over crazily, not daring to stop and rest at all. Palace Master, when you were not here, the Heavenly Dragon Empire took good care of us and often gave us resources. When we were eliminating some rebels or bandits, they all helped us. Iyue's gaze was resolute. If not for Yi Tianyun's presence, they would have sent reinforcements. I know. You can rest here. I will rush over there. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed with a cold light. He was ready to fly to the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Putting aside the fact that Renlong was his sworn brother, Renjiro alone was worth saving. Of course, he had heard that the Heavenly Dragon Empire had helped them a lot. We don't need to take action? They were all stunned. They thought that he was going to bring a group of strong cultivators, but Yi Tianyun said that he would go himself. There's no need. By the time you arrive, it will be too late. Yi Tianyun said calmly. Your Highness, but. The divine envoy was speechless. He had heard that Tianyun was very powerful, but it was only limited to the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital. If they were outside the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital, they would not be able to control the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure. Their strength would definitely be greatly reduced. How could they fight? Now that they were attacking from all directions, they could not win by relying on just one person. No buts. Don't worry. Leave it to me. Tianyun said indifferently, I don't know if you are going to support them. It might be a trap to lure the tiger away from the mountain, so it's better for you to stay here and guard this place. Everyone was stunned. That was really possible. Tianyun did not wait for them to say anything. He took a step forward and disappeared into the sky. His speed was beyond imagination. They were all dumbfounded. His speed was too fast. It was unbelievable. This is the power of your highness? The divine envoy was dumbfounded. Iyue and the others were also dumbfounded. How long has it been since Tianyun broke through again? They had seen the flying speed of a void spirit stage cultivator. It was not even 1/10 of Tianyun's speed. Tianyun did not even summon the phoenix. The reason was simple. The phoenix's speed was slower than him. So, why would he summon the phoenix? Phoenix bloodline, open. In the next moment his entire body emitted inextinguishable flames, and even more phoenix wings emerged. His speed instantly increased by 7 times, and with a boom, even the air was broken through by him. In the blink of an eye, he flew a distance of 100 miles. It was truly terrifying. At the same time, the Heavenly Dragon Empire was in chaos. Most of the cities had fallen. The situation was much worse than before. Prime Minister Long did not need to occupy other cities at that time. They only needed to occupy the imperial capital. After all, what Prime Minister Long needed was this empire. If they were to flatten it all the way, they would consume a lot of resources. Right now, the 4 empires were ferociously pushing their way over. They first occupied the cities at the borders, and then closed in from all directions. Each of the 4 empires occupied a place and finally gathered at the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital. It was not clear which of the 4 empires would be faster. In short, the appearance of the 4 empires meant that all the cities in that direction had fallen. They were going to swallow up the Heavenly Dragon Empire, leaving nothing behind. In the main hall of the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital, Renjiro, Renlong, and the ministers looked solemn. This was a moment of life and death. How could they resist the 4 empires? I have already sent a divine messenger to the Heavenly Cloud's mansion to ask for reinforcements. I believe that reinforcements will come soon. Renlong said in a deep voice. Heavenly Cloud's mansion. Everyone shook their head in despair. Heavenly Cloud's mansion was not even an empire. What was the point of looking for them? Plus, there were 4 empires now. What could a small Heavenly Cloud's mansion do? Don't we have His Highness? As long as His Highness returns, we will have a chance to win. One of the ministers thought of Tianyun. He witnessed Tianyun's power with his own eyes, so of course he would support him. His Highness is powerful. He can control the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure, but we are facing 4 empires now. Although it is not as powerful as the Netherworld Empire, the Netherworld Empire cannot afford to face 4 empires at the same time. That's right. I heard that even the old ancestors of the empires are coming. Not only are there Void Spirit Peak experts, but there are also Spirit King experts. So what if His Highness comes? We can't defend the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure anymore. They sighed deeply. There was no hope in their eyes at all. It wasn't that they didn't believe in Tianyun, but the enemy was too strong. How could the brother and sister not be like this? They both sighed deeply. I hope Brother E will not come to help. Renlong shook his head. He felt that it was a mistake to send someone to look for Tianyun. This was basically a dead end. What was the point of sending someone to help? Brother, it seems like we can't defend the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Renjiro smiled bitterly. This time, they really couldn't defend it. That's right. Renlong sighed. Soon after, his eyes turned cold as he spoke in a deep voice. Even if this is the case, even if we die, we will fight until the very last moment. That's right. Renjiro nodded. No matter what the result was, they had to fight until the last moment. Chapter 568. The Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital was filled with despair. Many cultivators were panicking. Some of them even packed up their things and ran away. When Prime Minister Long and the others attacked the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital, most of them chose to stay. Now, they couldn't stay calm anymore. Even the number 1 ranked power wouldn't dare to fight head-on against 4 Empire's powers. Of course, the 4 Imperial forces didn't dare to attack the strongest Imperial force at will. If they really attacked the strongest Imperial force, they would suffer heavy losses. This was obviously not cost-effective. If they suffered heavy losses, they would probably be annexed by the other Imperial forces. Therefore, they didn't dare to invade the strongest Imperial forces at will. The overall strength of the Heavenly Dragon Empire was not bad, so it wouldn't be a problem to join forces with the 4 Imperial forces to overthrow the Heavenly Dragon Empire. At the same time, in a city on the edge of the Heavenly Dragon continent, the guards were frantically resisting the invaders from the outside. Although there was a large array to resist the attacks of the cultivators, it was still very difficult to resist. The whole city fell into panic and despair. Kill them all. Kill all the invaders. Mas, the city lord of Huiyun City, roared and took the lead to kill the invaders on the city wall. The other guards also roared and kept killing the invaders. However, in the face of the endless stream of cultivators, their faces were pale, but they could only grit their teeth and resist. City Lord Amo, I advise you to give up resisting. Can you resist the forces of the Tianluo Empire? The leader of the group was a Void Spirit Stage cultivator, and there were many Core Transformation Stage cultivators around him. There were already hundreds of cultivators with him, among which there were as many as 5 or 6 Core Transformation Stage cultivators and hundreds of Spirit Core Stage cultivators. This was only one of the groups. There were still other forces rushing towards other cities. It could be said that this was an all-out attack. It would be a waste of time if they attacked the cities one by one. There weren't many guards in Huiyun City. The strongest was City Lord Mo, but his cultivation was only at the 8th level of Core Transformation Stage. Facing the Void Spirit Stage cultivator in front of him, he was like a piece of trash. Most of the rest were Spirit Core Stage cultivators. Even if there were only a few Spirit Core Stage cultivators, they wouldn't be so desperate. Most of them are in the Core Condensation realm. This kind of cultivation really cannot bear the other party's anger. Dong Lin, don't talk nonsense. Even if we die, we will not give up resisting. Mose snorted coldly and said angrily with his weapon in hand, once our reinforcements arrive, all of you will definitely die. What reinforcements? Dong Lin sneered. Are you talking about the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital or the other cities coming to help? Or should he wait for reinforcements from the Heavenly Cloud Mansion? I heard that there was a prince who was very powerful? Or was it the power of Heavenly Cloud's mansion? The Heavenly Cloud Mansion was just a 3rd-grade force, yet they dared to come and help? I think they can't even protect themselves. That's right. Even if we die and Huiyun City falls into enemy hands, Great Emperor Ren and His Highness will avenge us. Moss was very loyal to the Heavenly Dragon Empire. He would never choose to surrender or betray the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Ha! Dong Lin and the others burst into laughter upon hearing that. It was as if they had just heard the funniest joke in the world. Tears almost flowed out of their eyes. Are you still counting on Great Emperor Ren and Lord Ren to save you? Let me tell you, if they are not in the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital, they are nothing. Dong Lin laughed. They are just a bunch of trash hiding in the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital, relying on the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure to protect themselves. Outside the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital, they can't use the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure at all. What's the difference between them and trash? Moss and the others immediately blushed when they heard that. Dong Lin was right. The Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital relied on the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure to defend everything, but that was it. If they didn't attack and flatten the surrounding cities, They wouldn't dare to come out at will. What's the point of not being able to use the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure once they come out? They had the divine tool, but they couldn't bring it out, so their strength was greatly reduced. Even if I kill my way to the entrance of the imperial capital, I won't dare to come out at will, let alone return to the heavenly cloud city. Isn't this the best proof? How many cities have we conquered? Where are the people? Tell me, where are the people? Where are the reinforcements? You are just a bunch of trash hiding in the safest place in the imperial capital. Who cares if you live or die? Dong Lin's words caused their expressions to turn ugly. Every word he said caused their hearts to sink to the bottom of the valley. What Dong Lin said was the truth. However, they still had a sliver of hope in their hearts that the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital would send reinforcements. Now that so many cities had fallen, it seemed like they wouldn't be able to hold on for long even if they returned to Cloud City. Listen to my advice. What bullshit Heavenly Dragon Empire? They are all a bunch of trash, a bunch of forces that casually abandon people. You still choose to stay in the city? As long as you surrender to us, we guarantee that you will be 100 times better than the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Dong Lin continued to persuade them, but he was not in a hurry to attack. As expected, the fox's tail was revealed at this time. He had said so much just to make Moss's heart waver and choose to give up on returning to Cloud City. If they resisted, it would still be a little difficult to take over, and there would even be some casualties. If he could move his mouth and take down a city, why not? If he could incite them to attack the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital together, that would be the best choice. Don't try to mislead us with your lies. After Moss heard this, he said angrily, the Heavenly Dragon Empire has always treated us well. Even if we die, we will not choose to surrender. Moss was not bewitched, his heart was still very firm, and he did not compromise because of this. The other guards looked at each other and saw determination in each other's eyes. That's right, even if there is no support, we will not surrender. Many of the guards roared, their eyes red. This was their last battle. A bunch of idiots, even at the brink of death, they are still so stubborn. No one from the Heavenly Dragon Empire came to rescue them, yet they are still so stubborn. Dong Lin laughed coldly. It's a pity that you won't be able to see a group of turtles who only know how to hide in the imperial capital. What bullshit Great Emperor Ren, what bullshit King, they are all a bunch of turtles. We won't allow you to insult the Great Emperor. Moss said angrily, if you want to kill me, then kill me. Come on. They were fearless, not worried at all that they would die. Then you can all die. Dong Lin pointed with his finger, indicating for his subordinates to charge forward and take over Cloud City. Oh, who said I was a coward? At this time, a ghostly voice appeared behind them. Everyone turned their heads to look and saw a young man standing behind them. Chapter 569. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard the word, Prince. They turned around and saw a young man floating in the air with his hands behind his back. He was staring at Dong Lin and the others coldly. You are the Prince of the Heavenly Dragon Empire? Dong Lin looked at Yi Tianyun from head to toe. He was shocked. Isn't he too young? He looks like he is less than 20 years old. How could he be a prince? Judging from the fact that he could fly, he must be at the core transformation stage. Rumor had it that the prince was very powerful. He could control the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure and fight against Prime Minister Long. However, these were just rumors. Dong Lin and the others did not really believe it. Maybe he had fought with his life on the line and finally won. That's right. That's me. Yi Tianyun looked at him indifferently. In his eyes, Dong Lin was already a dead man. Dong Lin laughed. That's right. You are not a coward anymore. However, you are an idiot. Instead of hiding in the Heavenly Dragon Imperial City, you came out to help us. If you are not an idiot, then what are you? Moss and the others' faces changed. Without the support of the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure, how could he use the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure? Are you done? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Are those your last words? Last words? That should be your last words. Dong Lin was taken aback. Then he sneered. Capture him. He is a prince of the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Serve him well. Yes. The core transformation stage cultivators sneered and surrounded Dong Lin. How powerful could a young man like him be? They guessed that he had just reached the core transformation stage not long ago. Although he was a genius, he was no different from a child in front of a late-stage core transformation stage cultivator. When the core transformation stage cultivators surrounded Dong Lin, Yi Tianyun raised his hand and tens of thousands of flying swords appeared around him. He put on the Sword Master set and controlled tens of thousands of spiritual swords. He did not even want to do anything. He only needed the Sword Master set to deal with these trash. Especially when dealing with so many cultivators, when one's cultivation was not high, using the swordsman set to kill them was like slaughtering chickens and dogs. What is this? When they saw tens of thousands of spirit swords flying into the sky, their hearts trembled. Even the spirit swords in the hands of some spirit core realm cultivators were sucked into the formation. Go. Yi Tianyun stretched out his hand and pointed. Tens of thousands of spiritual swords pierced through the air like a dense rain of swords falling from the sky. Swish, 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 an air-piercing sound could be heard, followed by a series of silver lights that pierced through the cultivators who were rushing towards them. Even the core transformation stage cultivators were pierced through by these tens of thousands of swords. The rest of the spirit core stage cultivators wanted to turn around and escape, but it was too late. Their speed of escape was far slower than the speed of the spirit sword. Their backs were immediately pierced by the spirit swords. Then, their bodies swayed and they fell to the ground, blood staining the place where they fell. In the blink of an eye, most of the invaders were wiped out, and everything was easily crushed. What kind of divine skill is this? Dong Lin's face darkened. Even though his cultivation was at the void spirit stage, the feeling that Yi Tianyun gave him now was like that of a god of slaughter. Then, he gritted his teeth and a low-grade sacred artifact appeared in his hand. He swung it forward, and a thick light swept across the area, shattering the spiritual swords that were rushing towards him into powder. Compared to a sacred artifact, these spiritual swords were naturally rubbish. All of you are a pile of scrap metal. Dong Lin killed his way towards Yi Tianyun. However, before he could reach Yi Tianyun raised his hand and pointed at him. A light beam pierced through his body. The speed was so fast that he didn't even have time to react. When he continued to fly forward, he found that there was a big hole in his chest. It was a ghastly sight. Is this the power of His Royal Highness? Dong Lin's vision darkened, and he fell from the sky. At last, he fell heavily on the ground, completely dead. He had killed Dong Lin with just a single finger. It was a piece of cake for him. Dong Lin was at the void spirit stage, but in front of Yi Tianyun, even if he was at the peak of the void spirit stage, he was still a piece of trash. Without the cultivation of the Spirit King stage, there was no way he could stand in front of Yi Tianyun. When this scene fell into the eyes of Moss and the others, they were shocked speechless. Moss knew that Yi Tianyun was very powerful, but that was because he relied on the Heavenly Dragon secret artifact to unleash his full power. But now, Yi Tianyun was able to kill all of them by himself, which shocked them greatly. It was only a short time, but he already possessed such terrifying power? Clean up. Yi Tianyun put away the spiritual swords and looked up at Moss. Not bad, you didn't choose to betray the Heavenly Dragon Empire until the last moment. This was a very rare situation. After all, Moss and the others had chosen to resist the Heavenly Dragon Empire with their lives, which meant that they were still very loyal. The Heavenly Dragon Empire has been treating us well. There is no reason for us to betray them. Even if no one comes to help us in the end, we will accept it. Moss shook his head. Now that 4 empires had surrounded them, how could they come to help? Actually, we have always had reinforcements, but the forces here are too powerful, so we can't save them all. Yi Tianyun shook his head. Before coming here, he had killed many cultivators from other forces. Among them, there were many cultivators from the Heavenly Dragon Empire who came to help, but it was just a drop in the bucket. How could a weak empire, which had suffered from internal strife, resist the invasion of 4 empires? The spirit is willing, but the strength is insufficient. This is the current situation of the Heavenly Dragon Empire. The best proof is that His Royal Highness is here to help us. Their eyes were filled with hope. Yi Tianyun's appearance was enough to make them more determined. Everything was worth it for him to come to the rescue at this critical moment. Then I will go to the next city to help and drive out the forces of the 4 empires. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold and he said in a deep voice, "Collect all the spoils of war from their bodies and replenish your energy." After saying that, he quickly flew away and flew to the next city. Things were far from over. This was only one of the cities, and there were more important things to come. Moss and the others looked at the back of Yi Tianyun's back and hurriedly knelt on the ground and shouted, "His Royal Highness, I wish His Royal Highness victory in advance." When Yi Tianyun completely disappeared in the sky, they quickly came out of the city and collected all the spoils of war. Fortunately, Tianyun came, otherwise, all of them would have been destroyed. Chapter 570. The war was still going on. The forces of the 4 empires were crazily invading the Heavenly Dragon imperial capital. More and more cities were occupied, and more bad news was sent back to the Heavenly Dragon imperial capital. The ministers looked dignified. This was not unexpected. They had not recovered from the previous civil war, so they were easily defeated. Originally, with Prime Minister Long and the others, they could at least resist a lot of experts. But now, not too much time has passed, and the losses have not been replenished. The other party was taking advantage of this moment to take their lives. This was taking advantage of their weakness to take their lives. The 2 armies successfully arrived in front of the Heavenly Dragon imperial capital. A majestic group of cultivators flew all over the sky, or rode on the demonic beasts on the ground. The number of cultivators was enough to make one tremble in fear. Even the ministers of the Heavenly Dragon Empire joined them, which meant that they were traitors. This was not unexpected. They were timid and afraid of death. Not everyone was willing to sacrifice themselves to protect the city like Moss. Renlong and the others stood on the city wall and looked at the traitors coldly. What could they say to these traitors? "Great Emperor Ren, I advise you to surrender. Do you think you can defeat us with the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure?" At this time, 2 Spirit King stage cultivators were riding on the dragon chariot, and a Jiao dragon was flying in the sky. It was easy to imagine that these 2 Spirit King stage cultivators were being dragged by a Jiao dragon. They were the great emperors of the 2 empires. They didn't expect that they would personally join the battle, but it was not unexpected. As a great emperor, it could greatly improve morale. The lineup of the 2 empires in front of him was indeed terrifying. In addition to the 2 great emperors, there were at least 10 void spirit generals, and as many as 70 or 80 core transformation cultivators, not to mention spirit core cultivators. As for those with low cultivation, they were left in the empires. In this kind of war, the strongest force was the foundation. There was no need for a large number of cultivators. This was no longer a case of having more people coming. The current situation was the best example. They were killing their way over very quickly. If it were cultivators with lower cultivation levels, who knew how long it would take for them to arrive? The eyes of Renlong and the others froze. They were really killing their way over in a grandiose manner. The 2 sides in front were already surrounded. These were only 2 empires' forces. There were still 2 more empires' forces, and it seemed like they hadn't flattened the cities over there yet. "Emperor Shao, I remember that our ancestors had a good relationship. Why did you join the battle?" Renlong stared at one of the lands and said coldly, "There is no why. You just need to answer us. Are you willing to surrender or not? That's your answer." Emperor Shao was too lazy to explain anything to them. Great Emperor Shao ruled the Cloud Sky Empire, which had a good relationship with the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Their ancestors were quite friendly. Now that the previous emperor of the Heavenly Dragon Empire had left, it was very likely that he had gone to the Heaven Realm or the Netherworld Realm. He had not existed here for a long time. As time passed, their relationship gradually cooled down, but the overall situation was still considerable. Usually, they would occasionally interact with each other. Who would have thought that they would send troops to attack them? This was something that Emperor Ren and the others had not expected. Initially, he thought the Cloud Empire would not be one of the empires that attacked the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Who knew it would be the Cloud Empire? By the way, why didn't the Tian Luo Empire and the Dream Clouds Empire come here for a long time? Is it because there are more cities over there? Another Spirit King stage expert said while lying on the dragon carriage. He didn't look like a great emperor at all. Instead, he looked like a playboy. There were two peerless beauties beside him, and they were constantly feeding him spirit fruits. It didn't look like they were here to attack the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Great Emperor Zhuge, the situation over there is indeed more cities than our side, and they are a little stricter. That side was originally used to defend the Netherworld Empire, so of course, they are a little stronger than here. Great Emperor Shao had already figured out the situation over there. Great Emperor Zhuge couldn't help but laugh. It seems like they have suffered a loss, and we have gained a lot. I didn't force them to make this choice. It's their own choice. It has nothing to do with me. Emperor Shao smiled. They had a good relationship with the Heavenly Dragon Empire and they had already figured it out. Ren Long and the others' faces turned ugly. If this continued, they would be unable to escape once the four great empires gathered. Great Emperor Ren, what's your answer? Great Emperor Shao looked at him coldly. Ren Long's silence made him a little annoyed. I have nothing to say to a piece of trash like you. Ren Long said indifferently. Even if he was facing thousands of soldiers, he didn't panic at all. At most, they would fight to the end. They would not choose to give up the imperial capital so easily. To them, this was a great humiliation. Great Emperor Shao laughed and said, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too weak. Especially you, Brother Ren, as a great emperor, you haven't broken through after so long. It's really shameful. Great Emperor Shao said sarcastically, which made Great Emperor Ren's face turn ugly. If he hadn't been trapped in the Coiling Dragon Cave for so long, he would have broken through a long time ago. Currently, he was stuck at the peak of the Void Spirit stage, and he was still one step away from the Spirit King stage. Great Emperor Shao and Ren Long were about the same age, but Ren Long broke through earlier than him. Ren Long's talent was much higher than Great Emperor Zhao's, but who knew that he would be surpassed by Great Emperor Shao? Do you want to annex my forces just because we are too weak now? Ren Long's eyes turned cold. Isn't this a matter of course? I advise you to surrender, and I can spare your life. Great Emperor Shao sneered. It will be too late when everyone gathers here. Don't think that you are invincible just because you have the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure. In our eyes, it's just a turtle shell. I heard that there is a king who can control the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure, but what's the point? The Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure was very powerful, but it wasn't invincible, especially when they didn't even have a Spirit King stage cultivator, so it wouldn't be a problem for them. Although Great Emperor Zhao's words were reasonable, Ren Long's eyes were cold. Then don't talk nonsense. If you want to occupy our imperial capital, then let's fight. Ren Long said coldly, I will make you pay the price. Is that so? In that case, there is no other way. When the other two empires gather here, it will be your death. Just wait and feel the fear of being surrounded by four empires. Great Emperor Shao sneered. You don't have to wait, the other two empires won't come here. At this time, a figure flew over and floated in the air. Chapter 571. Brother Yi? Brother Yi? Ren Long and the others were stunned when they saw Yi Tianyun. They thought that Yi Tianyun would not come back. They had heard that Yi Tianyun had gone to the ghost world, so they could not go there to inform Yi Tianyun. Who knew that Yi Tianyun would appear at this critical moment? Although they were surprised, they soon calmed down. Even if Yi Tianyun came back, wouldn't it be dangerous? He could control the secret treasure of the Heavenly Dragon, but how could he withstand the attacks of the four empires? His Royal Highness? Many officials were also stunned when they saw Yi Tianyun. They did not expect that the Royal Highness would come back at this critical moment. But he came alone. Where is the backup? The two emperors were stunned. They had heard that there was a Royal Highness who could control the secret treasure of the Heavenly Dragon, but they did not know where he came from. They knew that it was very difficult to control the secret treasure of the heavenly dragon, and it required a very strong bloodline of the heavenly dragon. This meant that the royal highness in front of them must have the bloodline of the heavenly dragon, and he was most likely a relative of the heavenly dragon empire. Of course, these were all guesses. They did not know the real situation. Now that a young man appeared in front of them, they were stunned. The legendary royal highness was this young man? No one would believe it. But it seemed that he could fly, which meant that his cultivation was not too low. Emperor Xiao and the others squinted their eyes and looked at Yi Tianyun. They felt that it was ridiculous. No matter how strong he was only one person. You are the legendary royal highness? You look quite young. Emperor Xiao couldn't help but laugh. That's all. Even if a royal highness appears, can he turn the tables? Emperor Xiao, wait a minute. What did he say just now? Emperor Zhuge squinted his eyes. Compared to this young man, what he said just now was more noticeable. Did he say anything just now? Emperor Xiao did not have any impression of him. What was the point of coming here alone? Did he just say that the other two empires would not come? Emperor Zhuge sat up and pushed the two beauties away. He looked at Yi Tianyun coldly. Did you just say that? Yes. The other two empires will not come. I have already stopped them on the way and destroyed them, Yi Tianyun said calmly. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned, and then the people from the two empires roared with laughter. They felt that this was simply a joke. He was actually able to stop two empires by himself. Even bragging had to depend on the situation, right? Not to mention the people of the two empires laughing, even the faces of the ministers in the heavenly dragon imperial capital darkened. Even if they did not believe it, no one would believe it. Tianyun, no one would believe it. Who would believe it? Tianyun Tianyun? Tianyun Long, Tianyun Long, Tianyun, Tianyun. Ren Long's face was solemn. Tianyun Long's words shocked him. He doesn't know if Tianyun really did it or not. It's very likely that Tianyun is just trying to scare them, as the minister said. Some people believed it, and some didn't, but the two empires definitely did not believe it. Great Emperor Ren, you're a prince, aren't you? Apart from the two Spirit King stage powerhouses, there are also a lot of Void Spirit stage powerhouses. You think you can stop them? If you want to scare us, don't say such stupid things. At least say something practical. For example, you have the World Dragon Empire as your backer. Great Emperor Xiao laughed out loud. He thought that Yi Tianyun's brain had a problem. He couldn't believe that Yi Tianyun would say such a thing. Everyone looked at Yi Tianyun as if he was a fool. They thought that a strong powerhouse would appear out of nowhere. Who knew that he would be a clown? Even if Yi Tianyun Long wanted to scare them, he had to find a way to do it. It was like a beggar suddenly saying that he had billions of dollars. Who would believe that? But if he said that he was the leader of the beggar gang, it would be different. Perhaps the leader was fake, but at least it was possible to believe it. But now, he said that he wiped out the two empires alone. Who would believe it? Well, now it's your turn. Even if you beg for mercy, I won't let you go. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Many times, you have to pay the price for what you have done. Pa, you really are an idiot. Great Emperor Ren, your prince is addicted to playing with us. Does he think that we will beg for mercy? You must be kidding me. Emperor Xiao flew out of the dragon carriage and looked at Yi Tianyun Long as if he was looking at a fool. How sad. How can the heavenly dragon empire be saved by such a prince? So, do you think that you are wrong to betray them? A wise man submits to circumstances. The ministers at the side could not help but shake their heads when they saw Yi Tianyun Long's situation. It was right to betray them. Otherwise, they would not even know how they died. Although they said that the new prince was very powerful, who would believe that he could overthrow the two empires alone? Many ministers in the heavenly dragon imperial capital did not know what to say. They heard that the prince was the sworn brother of Great Emperor Ren. Did that mean that Great Emperor Ren was responsible for this? At this time, Great Emperor Zhuge also flew out and shook his head. He came to tease us. He is quite happy. When the other two empires come, let's see how this brat can play tricks. They all laughed. They were not in a hurry to attack. When all the great emperors gathered, they would attack together. Soon, they would be able to flatten this force. Even the heavenly dragon's secret treasure would not be able to withstand the attacks of so many experts. This was what they had discussed before. If the heavenly dragon imperial capital surrendered first, it would be the best thing. Everyone nodded and looked at Yi Tianyun with mocking eyes. I have said that they will not come. Tianyun repeated and looked at them coldly. Two idiotic great emperors, look at me. Brat, what did you say? Emperor Shao and Great Emperor Zhuge glared at him. How dare he call them idiots when he is about to die? When they looked at Yi Tianyun, they immediately felt like they had fallen into a whirlpool. Their consciousness became a little blurry. In just a moment, they felt that their limbs had lost all feeling and their bodies were no longer their own. Well, very good. Yi Tianyun waved his hand. The two great emperors immediately turned around and summoned their personal sacred weapons. The next moment, they attacked their subordinates. Boom! Chapter 572. No one had expected the two great monarchs to suddenly change sides and start killing their subordinates. They showed no mercy at all and attacked with absolute killing moves. With a loud bang, a large number of cultivators were killed, and screams rang out incessantly. How could a Spirit King stage powerhouse be weak? For a time, the sound of explosions continued, and a large area seemed to have been lifted up. The power of a Spirit King stage powerhouse was evident. No one could react to what was going on. They were all dumbfounded by the sudden change. If Shao Great Emperor attacked Yi Tianyun and the others, no one would be surprised. After all, they didn't need to wait for the other two empires to come and kill them. Who would have thought that he would make a move against his own subordinates? The moment he made a move, it was a killing move. It was unbelievable. When he killed them, it was as if he was dealing with the enemy who killed his father, showing no mercy. What the hell is going on? What happened to Shao Great Emperor? What the hell is going on? This is crazy. What are they doing? The cultivators of the two empires quickly retreated to the side, but how could they compare to the speed of a Spirit King stage cultivator? They easily killed their way to the other side. The people of the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital were also dumbfounded. The people of the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital were also dumbfounded. No one knew what happened, but the two great emperors suddenly turned around and killed their own people. Could it be that Shao Great Emperor and the others are from the Heavenly Dragon Empire? How is that possible? If they are from the Heavenly Dragon Empire, why would they attack us? What the hell is going on? No one knew what was going on. They only saw Shao Great Emperor and Shao Great Emperor killing their own people. Although they were happy to see this scene, no one knew why it happened. Quick, stop it. Why can't I control my own body? Get out of the way, get out of the way. I can't control my own body. They shouted, and many cultivators were confused. What do you mean by you can't control your own body? As Spirit King stage powerhouses, how could they not control their own body? Of course, this wasn't a joke. The two of them were instantly affected by Yi Tianyun's bewitching eyes. It didn't pose any difficulty at all. The Eye of Enchantment could control the cultivation of cultivators below the 5th layer of Spirit King stage, and Great Emperor Shao was only at the 2nd layer of Spirit King stage. As for Great Emperor Zhuge, he was only at the 1st layer of Spirit King stage. He easily controlled the two of them. All they had to do was look at each other, and they were controlled by him. Under normal circumstances, no one would think that they would be controlled just by looking at each other. This was the case now. Not only were they easily controlled, but they could not even control their consciousness. Yi Tianyun didn't completely control them. Instead, he released their consciousnesses. They knew what he was doing, but they couldn't control themselves. They kept diving into the army and killing their own people. Fortunately, he also received EXP. Otherwise, he really didn't want to do this. In the past, the two empires had dealt with the Spirit King stage or Void Spirit stage powerhouses in the same way, but it was already over before it even started. The strongest had already been controlled and counterattacked. The rest were just shrimp soldiers and crab generals. They had no combat strength at all. Great Emperor Shao, what's wrong with you? Many generals retreated one after another. Their faces were very ugly, and their hearts were bleeding. In a blink of an eye, many core transformation stage powerhouses were killed, and the void spirit stage powerhouses could quickly leave the area. We don't know what's going on, but we are being controlled. It must be that kid's demonic technique. Great Emperor Shao shouted angrily. Kill him. Quick. Great Emperor Shao and the others shouted. The others were dumbfounded. Two great emperors were being controlled by a kid. What kind of demonic technique is this? But soon, several generals reacted and rushed towards Yi Tianyun without hesitation. They wanted to kill Yi Tianyun and let the two great emperors return to their original state. Yi Tianyun sneered and waved his hand. Emperor Shao and the others flashed and appeared in front of the generals in an instant. Under their horrified expressions, Yi Tianyun slashed down with his sword. In an instant, the two generals were killed on the spot. Void Spirit Stage cultivators were facing Spirit King Stage cultivators. Ding! Successfully killed Void Spirit Expert. Reward, 53 million EXP, 13,000 Crazy Point, 800 SPs. Obtained Martial Arts. Ding! Successfully killed Void Spirit Stage Expert. Experience points accumulated at a crazy rate, piling up continuously, reaching more than 50 million in an instant. His crazy point has also increased several times. This is all because he used the EXP card. There are so many cultivators here, most of the forces of the two empires, how can he miss it? Therefore, even if the 50 times experience cards were expensive, they would still buy them to use. However, he only bought a 50 times experience card. If he used the rest too many times, it would be too expensive. Although there wasn't any, the experience was still very shocking. There was no need to use additional experience cards. Unless the enemies in front of him were Void Spirit Stage cultivators, he wouldn't spend so much to buy EXP card. Void Spirit Stage cultivators have too little experience, that's why he didn't use them. If they were all Void Spirit Stage cultivators, or most of them were Spirit King Stage cultivators, he would go all out and buy EXP card. In the blink of an eye, the two Spirit King Stage cultivators killed the generals on the spot. Bastard, if you have the guts, don't use demonic technique. Let's fight fair and square. Emperor Zhao's face was pale. His generals died just like that, and he regretted it. He didn't allow them to come near him, but if they don't surround Yi Tianyun, they can't release the power in his body. Fair and square? Aren't we fighting fair and square now? Yi Tianyun sneered. Don't you think your words are a bit ridiculous? If you were in my place, would you stop? For empires are bullying one empire, and you still have the face to say fair and square? You're an idiot, don't drag me into this. Yi Tianyun's words were like a slap to their faces. If they were in his place, who would give up? These were two Spirit King Stage cultivators, and controlling them was enough to determine the outcome of the battle. By the way, I almost forgot to tell you, the great emperors of the two empires are also under my control. They killed most of their subordinates, so don't worry. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Chapter 573. When Yi Tianyun said this again, no one would laugh at him, let alone think that it was a lie. Did the two empires' forces disappear just like that? Although there were still a lot of empire's forces that hadn't been mobilized, the great emperor and many generals were killed. Even if they weren't annihilated, they wouldn't dare to do anything for at least a few decades. With so many powerhouses dead, who else could they bully? They might only be able to deal with some third-grade forces, but if they were mobilized, the other empire's forces might take advantage of them and occupy the imperial capital. The war between empires was very fierce, and if the other side showed weakness, they would attack without hesitation. Who wouldn't want a lot of resources and a large piece of land? Did he really annihilate the two empires' forces? They looked at Yi Tianyun in horror. They thought that he was just joking before, but now it sounded so shocking. Even the two Spirit King Stage powerhouses could be easily toyed with, not to mention the other two empires. Combined with all the things that Yi Tianyun said before, everyone's hearts sank. It wasn't a lie at all, it was the truth. It wasn't that the two empires' forces were too slow, but they were already annihilated by Yi Tianyun. All the cultivators in the Heavenly Dragon Imperial Capital couldn't help but shiver. Previously, they thought that Yi Tianyun didn't use his brain when he spoke, even if he was trying to scare people. Now that they thought about it again, their backs were wet with sweat. They didn't expect their lord to be so terrifying. He didn't even use the Heavenly Dragon's secret treasure, but he was already able to control the other party. Shao Emperor and the others' pupils shrank, and their hearts were filled with regret. It seems that Yi Tianyun wasn't lying from the beginning, it was just that they thought Yi Tianyun was a fool. He really annihilated the two empires. Most of the people felt as if a bucket of cold water was poured over their heads, making them shiver from head to toe. At this moment, a cultivator screamed and turned to flee. Following that, the other cultivators followed suit and turned to flee as well. Their great emperor had been controlled, and their morale had fallen to rock bottom. So many Void Spirit Stage cultivators had been killed, and the remaining cultivators were no longer a threat. So why didn't they run? He turned around and ran, wishing he had an extra pair of legs. Trying to escape? Ask me if I'll let you escape. Yi Tianyun harumphed coldly. With a wave of his hand, the two great monarchs charged forward and attacked his underlings. However, there were too many of them. They had tens of thousands of cultivators with them, and they were all spread out. Therefore, it was impossible for the two of them to wipe them all out. In the next moment, countless demonic beasts appeared out of thin air. As soon as they appeared, they immediately rushed forward, biting and tearing at the people in front of them. One by one, the ferocious and brutal demonic beasts continuously attacked and killed them. Although he had given a lot of demonic beasts to Heavenly Cloud's mansion as pets, he still had hundreds of them with him, so he was still very crazy about them. The weakest of these demonic beasts was at the core transformation stage, and the rest of the cultivators were no match for them. Even if their cultivation was slightly higher, they were already scared out of their wits under the control of the demonic beasts. How could they still have the mood to fight? For a time, a massacre appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The enemies had no resistance at all, and they were easily beheaded. Only Yi Tianyun was still floating in the air. He didn't need to do anything himself, he just let them attack him. I am a minister of the Heavenly Dragon Empire, I am willing to surrender. I am also a minister of the Heavenly Dragon Empire, I am willing to surrender, I am willing to be punished. One by one, the traitors knelt down in regret. They all thought that the Heavenly Dragon Empire would be destroyed, but who knew that the return of the Heavenly Dragon Empire would instantly destroy them? This terrifying power was enough to make everyone tremble in fear. Who could still resist? At least they didn't. You want to be punished? Then you can die. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and with a wave of his hand, the demonic beasts immediately trampled them into meat paste. Even if they were given a chance to turn over a new leaf, they would still choose to betray the Heavenly Dragon Empire the next time, so they were simply killed. Yi Tianyun hated betrayal the most, so their fate was doomed. The moment they betrayed the Heavenly Dragon Empire, only death awaited them. At the moment of death, they regretted choosing to betray the Heavenly Dragon Empire. The most important thing was that even if they died, their families would suffer the same fate. Rinlong and the others' eyes flickered, but they didn't say anything. If they were in Yi Tianyun's position, they would also do the same. No matter which empire it was, they would not let off the traitors easily. Successfully killed a Spirit Core Stage cultivator, gained EXP. Ding! Successfully killed Core Transformation Stage cultivator. At this time, a notification popped up, but it wasn't the experience gained from killing the enemies, but from the Heavenly Cloud Mansion. Ren Liangqin and the others were fighting against the invading forces, and it was obvious that they were cultivators from the four empires. Sure enough, they want to annex two forces at once? Their appetite is really big. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold. He had thought about whether the Heavenly Cloud Mansion would send reinforcements or not. If their reinforcements came, then the Heavenly Cloud Mansion would fall. Moreover, their movement speed was even slower, so it was already too late for them to come. Fortunately, he had returned. Otherwise, if he had returned after a period of time, perhaps everything would have changed. He had been guarding against the heavenly netherworld divine nation, but he never thought that the imperial forces in the mortal world would launch a big attack on them. I thought this side would be safer, but it seems like both sides are not safe. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. It seems like he has to increase his strength greatly, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to stay here safely. Who would know that it wasn't the heavenly netherworld divine nation who destroyed their home, but the imperial forces on this side? This made him want to cry, but he didn't know that it was the other empires who destroyed their home. After all, it was very difficult for Spirit King stage cultivators to come up from the bottom, but there was no restriction on this side. If there were a few Spirit King stage cultivators in a huge empire, then they would be finished. Solve the problem here, and let all the empires know that the heavenly cloud mansion is not to be messed with. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and he continued to control all the demon beasts to attack. Xiao Tianyun and the others also kept killing, and for a while, the whole place was dyed red with blood. Many cultivators in the Heavenly Dragon Imperial City rushed out, and they didn't have to worry about the enemy's counterattack. He wanted to take this opportunity to beat them while they were down and kill them all so that he could vent the anger in his heart. Chapter 574. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to first layer Spirit King stage. Finally, after killing almost all the cultivators, an amazing notification popped up. After killing so many cultivators, he successfully broke through to the Spirit King stage. It was really a difficult process. The EXP required was too much. He had to kill almost 4 Imperial Forces cultivators in order to level up. And this was under the 66 times EXP. If it was just 16 times EXP, it would be a long process. Finally broke through to the Spirit King stage. Yi Tianyun felt that his power has been greatly improved. It's scary. His basic combat power was as high as 200 million. That's right, his basic attributes were 200 million combat power. After using crazy damage mode, his combat power would be as high as 2 billion, close to 3 billion. Instead of directly multiplying 200 million combat power by 16 times, it would be 2 billion. Some values were not suitable for crazy damage mode. For example, defense was not counted, but combat power was included in it. So when he used crazy damage mode, his combat power was only about 2 billion. But after using crazy damage mode, reaching 3 billion combat power was not a problem. 3 billion combat power, it was scary to think about it. When he fought against Ming Chen in crazy damage mode, his combat power was only 3 billion. Now that he had 3 billion combat power, there was no doubt that when he faced Ming Chen again, he would be like a piece of trash standing in front of him. He would be able to kill Ming Chen effortlessly. This was the benefit of basic attributes. Only by increasing it, he would become a real terrifying existence. Even if he used crazy damage mode to increase his strength by 32 times, his combat power would only increase by 1 point, which was still very weak. If his battle power were to increase by another 0 and reach 10 points, then the significance would be like heaven and earth. Basic attributes were always the most important, no matter what divine skills were powerful, but if his cultivation was too low, he would not be able to use the ultimate power. For example, 3 clones could only have 30% of his strength. Assuming that his combat power was only 2 billion, his clones could have 600 million combat power. One could imagine how terrifying the basic attributes were. It's just that he had to step on countless corpses to reach this level. Even without this crazy system, if he wanted to become an absolute king, he would have to step on countless bones. The battle ended quickly. On the entire battlefield, only 2 people from the 2 empires were still alive. They were Great Emperor Xiao and Great Emperor Zhuge. The 2 of them watched from start to finish. No matter how they shouted or how they insulted Yi Tianyun, it was all meaningless. Yi Tianyun was controlling them from the start to the end, not letting them stop at all. This was the price they had to pay. Bastard, I will never let you off, you demon. Emperor Zhao's eyes were red. He had killed from the beginning to the end. His heart must have collapsed. Although he had no feelings for his subordinates and it didn't matter how they died, it was different when they died in his hands. You deserve to be cut into pieces. You devil! You trash! You scum! Great Emperor Zhuge roared in anger. Apart from these words, they couldn't say anything else. I'm a demon? Yi Tianyun sneered. I don't know who organized the 4 empires to attack us. You have suffered losses, but our heavenly dragon empire has suffered no losses? Even the heavenly cloud mansion has been under attack. If it weren't for me, the heavenly dragon empire would have been destroyed. If you can't afford to lose, don't do this kind of thing. Yi Tianyun looked at them coldly, and under their horrified eyes, he signaled them to attack each other. Don't worry, I will personally visit the 4 empires, and I will let them know what they should do and what they shouldn't do. Let all the forces in the mortal world know that the heavenly dragon empire is not to be trifled with. Yi Tianyun said coldly. Boom. The 2 of them clashed madly, killing each other. Their punches landed on flesh, but they continued to fight. Soon, their limbs were broken, and finally they fell from the sky, completely dead. Then it turned into a large amount of EXP, but it was only a small part of it. After all, the 50 times EXP card was gone. But Yi Tianyun didn't feel it was a pity, he wanted them to kill each other. Yi Tianyun always carried out the idea of being responsible for what he did. As the 2 of them killed each other, many ministers of the Heavenly Dragon Empire shuddered. The 2 great emperors were so powerful, but they still ended up being controlled by Yi Tianyun. They had to admit that Yi Tianyun was too strong. He already had the power to slaughter the entire empire. Yi Tianyun killed 2 Spirit King stage experts. Big brother Ren, little sister. Yi Tianyun flew over with a smile on his face. After all, Yi Tianyun's power is too strong. No one dares to provoke him at will. Prince Ren Long and the others smiled. They knew Yi Tianyun's character, so they weren't worried about this kind of situation. I didn't expect Brother Yi's cultivation to be so strong after just a few days. You can even control a great emperor now? Renjiro was shocked and she still hadn't recovered from the shock. Not necessarily. If the cultivation is too high, I can't control it. Yi Tianyun didn't hide it, everyone saw it, he can't hide it anymore. I see. Everyone looked at each other and felt that it was a pity. The 4 great empires had powerful Spirit King stage experts, so it would be more difficult to deal with them. If Yi Tianyun couldn't control it, wouldn't it be more difficult to deal with them? Let's not talk about this anymore. Thank you, Prince, for coming to rescue us, otherwise, the Heavenly Dragon Empire would be finished. Ren Long sighed. They were all ready to fight to the death, but Yi Tianyun came to rescue them and forced the 4 great empires to retreat. If this news spread out, it would definitely shock the entire mortal world. What are you talking about? As the prince here, I naturally have to help you. Besides, when I was not here, you also took care of the Heavenly Clouds mansion. Yi Tianyun said with a smile. They looked at each other and smiled. There was no need to say too many words of thanks. Chapter 575. With the help of Yi Tianyun's demon beasts, all the fallen cities were restored, and the Heavenly Dragon continent was completely wiped out. This news spread out at the same time and shocked the entire mortal world. The mortal world was big, but at the same time, it was also very small. At least, it was much smaller than the ghost world. There were at least a dozen empires, and this time, 4 empires joined forces to attack one empire, but the result was a failure. This shocked all the empires, and the 4 empires were trembling in fear. Many ministers and the former emperor's faces turned ugly. They didn't expect that their joint attack would result in total annihilation. No one could take this lying down, so the 4 empires secretly gathered to discuss how to deal with the Heavenly Dragon Empire. In an extremely secretive secret chamber, the former emperors of the 4 great empires gathered together. Originally, after handing over the throne to their sons, they were supposed to abdicate and focus on their cultivation. They were old, and they needed to increase their cultivation to prolong their lifespan, so it was time for them to abdicate. However, the news of their son's death made them furious. Bastard, what is the background of this Heavenly Dragon Empire's king? I heard that he killed all of our forces by himself. Sigh, my Xiao. Xiao Tian's old tears flowed down. Although he had many descendants, The most promising one was the King Shao. He never thought that he would die. How could he not be heartbroken? He couldn't wait to kill Yi Tianyun with his own hands. I heard that he has countless demon beasts, and he's also a beast tamer? But how can a beast tamer control so many demon beasts? Moreover, Byun is a Spirit King stage cultivator. Could it be that all of them are Spirit King stage demon beasts? Zhuge Yun's eyes were cold as he analyzed the information he got. Or he is very strong, maybe he is at the 4th or 5th layer of Spirit King stage. He was much calmer, but there was still a bit of anger and sadness in his eyes. How could he not value him as his successor? How could he not care about him? It's very possible. The information we got is limited, and most of it is about demon beasts. But I'm guessing that it's more about cultivation. This Heavenly Dragon Empire's Imperial Prince's cultivation is probably not low. As Zhuge Yun said, he should be at the 4th or 5th layer of Spirit King stage. Tian Luo, former emperor's eyes were filled with killing intent. Even so, with the 4 of us joining forces, we can still crush them. The 4 of them were former emperors, and their cultivation was not weak. The strongest among them was at the 5th layer of Spirit King stage, while the weakest was at the 3rd layer of Spirit King stage. Most importantly, cultivation wasn't the only standard to measure one's strength. Treasures were also one of them. If he had a few divine artifacts on him and was 1 or 2 levels stronger than him, it wouldn't be difficult for him to skip levels. No matter who that kid is or how strong his cultivation base is, he must die. An old man at the side suddenly opened his eyes, and a shocking killing intent shot out from his eyes. He was the last remaining former emperor of the empire, former Emperor Long Yun. His body was covered in dense dragon scales. It was unknown how much dragon blood essence he had absorbed for such a situation to appear. As the previous great emperors, they weren't weak in the first place. Each of them was stronger than the other. Even though he was old, his explosive strength was not any weaker than a young man's. It was just that the endurance of his blood chi would definitely be much weaker. If he was too old, his blood chi would definitely not be able to keep up. The other 3 nodded heavily. Their eyes were also filled with monstrous killing intent. No matter who the other party was, or how strong his cultivation base was, they had to kill him. They didn't need to bring anyone, as the 4 former emperors were more than enough. Moreover, most of their forces were annihilated in the war, so they couldn't bring more experts with them. However, 4 Spirit King stage cultivators were enough to shock Yi Tianyun. Although the previous 4 great emperors were dead, this time, they gathered together, and they were all the previous emperors of the previous generation. Their combat experience was even richer. Yi Tianyun followed them to discuss how to solve this matter and how to cooperate with them to suppress Yi Tianyun. I have a fusion grand array. If the 4 of us practice it together, it will be easier to deal with him. I didn't want to take it out initially, but since we don't know the strength of the enemy, I don't want to hide it. At this time, former Emperor Long Yun took out a scroll and slowly spread it in front of them. The detailed method of the fusion grand array was recorded on it. When the other 3 former emperors saw it, their eyes flashed with a golden light. They could see that this was not an ordinary grand array. Lock Dragon Grand Array? Their eyes lit up. This was definitely a heaven-grade grand array, and when the 4 of them practiced it together, its power was absolutely amazing. That's right. As the name suggests, even if it's a real dragon, it can still be locked up for you to see. Former Emperor Long Yun smiled coldly and said, "Don't mention that the other party is only at the 4th or 6th layer of Spirit King stage. Even if he is at the 6th or 7th layer, we can still suppress him." When the 4 of them attacked together, their power was absolutely amazing. They weren't weak in the first place, so when they joined forces, their attack would be even more powerful. Good. Former Emperor Zhuge said gloomily, "Then we will familiarize ourselves with this grand array, and when the time comes, the Heavenly Dragon Empire will be buried with my Yun." They nodded heavily. They all wanted to practice this grand array, and their hearts were filled with joy. This grand array was extraordinary, and if they could practice it, it meant that their subordinates would be able to practice it in the future. Former Emperor Long Yun naturally knew the consequences of doing so, But in order to take revenge, he had no choice but to take it out. In the case that the other party's strength was unknown, it was better to be safe than sorry. If they were defeated, they would be finished. When they looked at the grand array, they couldn't help but cheer. That's right, this dragon-locking formation is truly powerful enough. Let's see if that heavenly dragon empire doesn't die. Former Emperor Shao Tian sneered. Their foresight was not bad, and they naturally knew how terrifying its might was. Yes, I want that kid to pay the price. We can't kill him right away, we have to punish him severely. Former Emperor Tian Luo nodded heavily. Well, why don't you try it? At this time, a ghostly voice came from the side, scaring them, and they hurriedly hid to the side. When they saw it clearly, they didn't know when a young man sneaked in. This was a secret room that only a few people knew about. How could there be a stranger here? The young man was none other than Yi Tianyun. He certainly didn't know about this place, but he learned about it from the great Emperor Shao Tian and the others. With the eye of charm, it wasn't difficult for them to say it out loud. Chapter 576. Who are you? They quickly calmed down and stared at Yi Tianyun. Although they didn't know who he was, they knew that he must have come with bad intentions. The four great emperors were well prepared, and their murderous aura enveloped the entire area, blocking all the exits. When they looked at Yi Tianyun, they had already guessed who the young man in front of them was. Yi Tianyun didn't need to hide anything, he didn't even need to disguise himself. Previously, he felt that he couldn't fight the enemy, so he needed to disguise himself. Now that he had broken through to the Spirit King stage, as long as the Holy Lord didn't appear, he would be invincible in the mortal world. Who do you think I am? Yi Tianyun looked at Emperor Long Yun with an evil light flashing in his eyes. Emperor Long Yun was stunned for a moment, and then he felt that he had lost control of his body, and he couldn't even release his strength. Just when he wanted to shout, he found that his voice was stuck in his throat, and he couldn't even shout. Then Yi Tianyun looked at Emperor Shao Tian, and his eyes flashed, and the other party lost control of him. The Eye of Enchantment was so powerful, as long as he looked at the other party, it wouldn't take more than a second to completely control him. Emperor Shao Tian and Emperor Long Yun were the strongest, so of course, Yi Tianyun wanted to control them first. Of course, he didn't need to control them, he could easily crush them. The reason why he controlled them was so that he could ask more questions. The other two emperors didn't know that two of them were under Yi Tianyun's control, and they kept sending messages to the other two emperors. This guy should be a king of the Heavenly Dragon Empire. I didn't notice him coming in, it seems that his cultivation is not low. He is at least at the 6th or 7th layer of the Spirit King stage. It seems that we can't use the Dragon Lock array for the time being, but we can try to surround him, and if it doesn't work, we will retreat. Emperor Tian Luo kept sending messages to them, and he wanted to know their opinion. In the case of not knowing Yi Tianyun's strength, it was better to be cautious. Although their son's cultivation was not strong, he was still a Spirit King stage cultivator. He could easily kill 4 Spirit King stage cultivators, so his strength was definitely not weak. I have no opinion. Zhuge Yun quickly responded. After a moment of silence, Emperor Tian Luo noticed that the other two emperors didn't answer him, which made them feel strange. The other two emperors actually wanted to answer him, but they couldn't even release their spiritual sense, so how could they answer him? Like a wooden man, he stood there motionless, like a fool. I have an opinion. A voice exploded in their ears like a thunderclap, making them both stunned. They looked up and saw Yi Tianyun looking at them with his hands behind his back. Are you done chatting over there? If you are, we can start now. Tianyun. Tianyun said. Tianyun. Tianyun. Without waiting for the other to get up, Yi Tianyun stepped on his body so hard that his sternum collapsed, making a crack sound. Tian Luo was a 3rd layer Spirit King stage cultivator, so his physique was definitely not weak. At least, he could withstand a few hits from Yi Tianyun. Unexpectedly, Yi Tianyun easily crushed his bones, and his whole body is like a pool of mud, paralyzed on the ground. You bastard! Get the hell out of here! Tian Luo endured the pain and roared. A flame swept out of his body and wrapped around Lee Tianyun, trying to burn him into ashes. In an instant, Lee Tianyun was wrapped in flames. Zhuge Yun on the side didn't slow down either. His eyes burst with a golden light, and with a wave of his hand, several golden lights rotated in the air, like 6 sharp blades, blooming dazzling golden light in this secret room. Go! Zhuge Yun waved his hand, and the 6 blades quickly pierced through the air. Each of the blades contained pure metal attribute power, and they were powerful enough to pierce through anything. Each of the blades had a combat power of more than 4 to 500 million. The 2 Spirit King stage experts teamed up to attack Lee Tianyun. Both of them released their killing moves, and even if it wasn't their strongest move, it was at least half of their power. Everything happened too suddenly, and they couldn't use their strongest attack immediately. What are you two doing? Hurry up and attack! Zhuge Yun roared. He found that the Yunlong Emperor and the others didn't move at all. If the 4 of them attacked together, they could definitely kill one of them. However, the other 2 didn't move at all, and they still maintained their original posture. Then, the 2 of them finally moved, but they didn't attack Lee Tianyun, but Zhuge Yun. The 2 of them joined hands to attack Lee Tianyun, and their coordination was quite good. It was as if they had been working together for many years. You! Zhuge Yun's expression suddenly changed, and he quickly summoned a golden fan. Like a peacock spreading its tail, it quickly unfolded in front of him, turning into a golden wall that blocked in front of him. Boom! Along with a loud noise, Zhuge Yun was blown away, and the whole secret room was blown away. Zhuge Yun finally stopped after being blown away for a few miles. Because of the sudden attack, even if he immediately set up his defense, it was still too late. Especially when the 2 of them were stronger than him, it was even more impossible for him to block the attack easily. As a result, his body was dyed red, and it was obvious that he had suffered a lot of injuries. What's wrong with you two? Are you 2 traitors? Zhuge Yun was shocked and angry at the same time, but it didn't make sense. Chapter 577. Although Zhuge Yun regretted his decision, it was too late for him to do anything now. The enemy had already come to his doorstep and controlled 2 Spirit King stage cultivators. He couldn't even run away now, let alone fight back. Friend, I, Zhuge Yun, swear that I will never step into the Heavenly Dragon Empire for the rest of my life. As compensation, I can give you all my treasures. If it's not enough, you can tell me and I'll find them for you. Zhuge Yun didn't want to die. Although he was not young, he still had many years to live. He knew that he couldn't just give up like this. He needed some compensation. Even if he had to give up all his treasures, he would still accept it. Who asked them to provoke such a monster? His terrifying power was not something they could provoke. Now he regretted his decision. If he didn't agree to join forces with the other 3 empires to attack the Heavenly Dragon Empire, this wouldn't have happened. Do you think there's any point in saying this now? Lee Tianyun looked at him indifferently and said, as long as I kill you, the whole empire will be mine. What's the point of compensation? Zhuge Yun's face changed. Lee Tianyun was right. He had already lost the right to negotiate. His empire would belong to Lee Tianyun in the future, so what was the point of compensation? Only those empires that couldn't be conquered and those that fought a protracted war were qualified to negotiate. Zhuge Yun had no right to negotiate now. As long as he died, his empire would immediately lose its leader. Originally, it had already suffered heavy losses, but now, it couldn't withstand the people's anger. In the next moment, Zhuge Yun turned around and ran away as fast as he could. There was only one thing in his mind now, and that was to escape. He didn't care about the empire anymore, he just wanted to live. Lee Tianyun wouldn't let him escape. He waved his hand, and the 2 Spirit King stage cultivators quickly caught up with Zhuge Yun. In a blink of an eye, they surrounded Zhuge Yun. Both of them were the strongest among them, so how could Zhuge Yun escape? Traitor! Zhuge Yun's face turned ugly. He couldn't use his full strength because of his injuries, and he couldn't escape from their encirclement. We are not traitors. Can I speak? Damn it. That kid used some kind of demonic technique. I can't control my body. Me too. I can't control my body at all. It's so weird. Their faces were pale. They had never seen such a terrifying Yao art. They didn't know what was going on, but they couldn't control their bodies. Zhuge Yun's expression changed, and he suddenly turned his head to look behind him. Tianyun was standing at the same spot, looking over with his hands behind his back. You guys talk about the past while fighting. Tianyun smiled and waved his hand. He didn't want to do it himself, he just wanted the two Spirit King stage experts to do it. Following that, Cloud Dragon Emperor and the others began to attack crazily. Furthermore, the sounds of conversation could be heard constantly. Tianyun just watched leisurely from the side. No matter how Zhuge Yun cursed, it was useless. In the end, he could not escape the fate of death. Ding! Successfully killed Zhuge Yun. Reward, 130 million EXP, 8000 CPS, 2,300 SPs. He obtained the martial art Heaven's Secret Art and derived the Divine Art. Items obtained: Heaven's Secrets Disc, Rare; Heaven's Secrets Talisman, Rare; Heaven's Secrets Fan, High-Grade Saint Artifact. The puppets he controlled would also gain experience from killing enemies. This was for sure. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent the two former emperors to attack. If they were killed so casually, it would be a huge loss for him. Come back. Tianyun waved his hand, and the two of them quickly came to him. Their faces were ugly, and their bodies were injured. They were very angry, but they couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't even self-destruct. If you want to kill us, then do it. That's right, kill us if you want to, don't talk so much nonsense. The two of them were angry. They were the dignified former emperors, but they were controlled like puppets. It was really a humiliation. They would rather die than be controlled by Tianyun. If they were controlled until they died, it would be terrible. Don't worry, you will definitely die, but before that, I have to ask you something. Tianyun pointed at the former Emperor Shao Tian and said indifferently, I asked your son and the others, but they couldn't tell me the details. Why did you choose to attack Heavenly Dragon Empire and Heavenly Cloud Mansion? It was the Netherworld Divine Nation who asked me to gather other empires to attack Heavenly Dragon Empire and Heavenly Cloud Mansion. Especially Heavenly Cloud Mansion, we want to completely wipe them out. However, we learned that Heavenly Cloud Mansion and Heavenly Dragon Empire have a very good relationship, so we planned to destroy Heavenly Dragon Empire first, then Heavenly Cloud Mansion. The Cloud Dragon First Emperor also replied, It is the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation that asked us to gather together. If we can complete this task, they will give us strong protection and many divine artifacts. They can even give us the Heavenly Dragon secret treasure of the Heavenly Dragon Empire. It really is the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation. Tianyun's eyes turned cold. He didn't get any details from the four great emperors. Obviously, they didn't tell their son. Presumably, the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation knew that they couldn't deal with him, so they mobilized the empires here to suppress Heavenly Cloud Mansion. It was likely that some of the cultivators of the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation slipped away, which led to the siege of the four empires. Apart from that, what else did they promise? Tianyun asked in a deep voice. No, they promised us protection and a lot of treasures when we go to Netherworld. The former Emperor Shao Tian answered truthfully. So you immediately took action? Tianyun sneered. Yes, this is a divine nation's force, and they promised us so many benefits, so of course we agreed. Plus, the Heavenly Dragon Empire is so weak that it won't take much effort to eradicate it. However, the emissary of the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation said that Heavenly Cloud Mansion is very powerful and needs 4 empires to capture it. At first, we didn't believe it. It's just a third-grade force, how strong can it be? But we still chose to send an army, and we didn't expect it to fall. They were like friends, confessing everything, but their hearts were filled with pain. No matter what the secret was, they were casually exposed, but they couldn't resist. Tianyun nodded as he roughly understood what was going on. The origin of everything was ultimately the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation. Revenge on me. Tianyun's eyes turned cold. If they didn't go so far, would he do such a thing to the Heavenly Netherworld Divine Nation? It could only be said that the weak are prey to the strong. They did nothing wrong, but they provoked him. Well, you can go to hell now. Yun waved his hand and said indifferently, "Leave your empire to me. Go and accompany your son in the afterlife. Soon, the people of the heavenly netherworld divine nation will accompany you." Chapter 578. The matter finally came to an end. The 4 great emperors and the 4 former emperors were dead, and the remaining forces were nothing to be afraid of. Tianyun immediately ordered Renlong to send troops to attack the 4 empires. At the same time, he also sent out a lot of demon beasts to attack the 4 empires. This meant that they immediately had 5 territories, but it wasn't easy to manage them, so they had to constantly send people to manage them. There were so many cities, and if they didn't manage them well, the difficulty would skyrocket. Fortunately, many forces didn't dare to attack at will. They didn't want to follow the footsteps of the 4 empires. Even the 4 empires couldn't defeat the 4 empires, let alone those independent empires. Therefore, seeing that the defense of the 4 empires was weak, they didn't dare to attack at will. All the empires remained silent, even the most powerful one. It was undeniable that the first empire was the strongest, but no matter how strong they were, they didn't have 8 Spirit King stage powerhouses, so they could only remain silent. At the same time, Tianyun also ordered a lot of Heavenly Cloud's mansion's men to take over the imperial capital. He had contributed a lot, and if he didn't give them some territory, then he would be too ignorant. When they took over the imperial capital, many cultivators volunteered to join them, mainly because the Heavenly Cloud's mansion managed the Heavenly Cloud's continent quite well, so after they took over the imperial capital, many cultivators chose to join them. There were also many extraordinary cultivators who chose to join the Heavenly Cloud's mansion. Although they didn't officially declare themselves as an imperial force, there was no problem with them becoming an imperial force. Now, all they needed was the establishment of the imperial capital, and Tianyun would become the great emperor. There's still a lot of qualified experts. Tianyun looked at the situation of the main quest. Most of the quests had been filled, and only the Void Spirit stage was left. There was a serious gap in this area. Even if the number of people reached the standard, but the loyalty was not up to the standard. In any case, these things were left to them to handle. He didn't want to get involved in these things. He didn't have time to manage these things, and power wasn't important to him at all. These so-called great emperors held the power, and he controlled everyone's life and death, which was more important than anything else. After settling down, Tianyun entered a cultivation room and finally began to calculate all the benefits. Now that he had broken through to the first layer of Spirit King stage, he could finally open the gift bag and see what was inside. Previously, he hadn't had the time to pay attention to the situation in this area. He had been running around non-stop to deal with any potential problems. He was the only one who could deal with a Spirit King stage cultivator, so he had to kill them himself. Activate the level 61 gift pack. Successfully opened gift pack 61, reward 80x EXP card, 5x Crazy Point card, 5x Sin card, 10x Mastery card. Level 71 gift pack. At the same time, all the lucky draw roulette will be activated, and there will be one more accessory type, and the drop rate will be increased. After the activation, a large number of brand new experience cards piled up. In an instant, there were many brand new experience cards in the shop, but their prices were also extremely high. Accessory type? Tianyun paused for a moment. He recalled that he rarely dropped accessories. After obtaining an accessory once, it was almost impossible for it to drop again. In fact, many cultivators had accessories on them, rings, bracelets, and necklaces. The accessory set that Tianyun had dropped once before was the power accessory set. So far, he had been wearing it, and there was no other accessory that he could replace it with. This made him feel very strange. Why didn't it drop? It seems that the drop rate of this accessory type is very low. Thinking about it carefully, Tianyun felt that it was really lucky for him to drop it before. Even if he killed a Spirit King stage cultivator later, it would be very difficult to drop this accessory, even if it was an ordinary accessory. However, none of them dropped. All of them were common equipment, piled up in piles and baskets. Now that the drop rate has increased, I should be able to get a little more, right? Lee Tianyun shook his head. But this gift bag was very normal, not too good, not too bad either. Anyway, this is an extra gift, it would be best if he could get it, but if not, he can't force it. Lee Tianyun immediately checked the other data on his body. Soon, all the data appeared in front of him, and he looked at it line by line. Breaking through to the next level requires 3 billion EXP. Lee Tianyun frowned. Although he knew that it would be difficult to break through to the next level, he was still shocked when he saw the amount of EXP 3 billion EXP. When he was at the peak of Void Spirit stage, he only needed 5 billion EXP. Now that it had doubled to 3 billion EXP, it was really scary. But then he thought about those former Emperor stage cultivators who only broke through to the 4th layer of Spirit King stage after hundreds and thousands of years of cultivation. Lee Tianyun didn't need that much time now, so he was quite satisfied. Lee Tianyun immediately shook his head. In fact, as long as there were more Spirit King stage cultivators, he would be able to break through to the next level. Killing Spirit King stage cultivators at this level would allow him to level up faster. 27 million crazy points, 23 million sin points. This should be enough for 1 million sin points. Lee Tianyun's eyes lit up. After reaching 1 million sin points, he could exchange for a better set of sin set. Lee Tianyun immediately opened the sin set shop again, and 2 sets of sin set with the best attribute effect were listed in front of him. Evil Spirits set requires level 50. After equipping, the wearer can transform into evil spirits at any time. All strength increased by 50 times, defense increased by 50 times, and speed increased by 10 times. When in evil spirits mode, all attacks become long-range attacks, can attack anything within 10 miles, and has a burning effect. Critical hit rate increased by 20%. Price, 1 million sin points. Sword Saint set, level 50 equipment. The wearer can transform into a Sword Saint. All swords within 10 miles of the wearer can be controlled by the wearer. Up to 10,000 swords can be controlled by the wearer. Sword Array, 10,000 swords unite as one. Consumes 100,000 crazy points to detonate all weapons to kill the enemy. Price, 1 million sin points. Which of the 2 top-grade equipment sets should he trade for? Lee Tianyun frowned. It was really hard to decide. It should be said that they each had their own merits based on the situation. Evil Spirits set is powerful enough, and Sword Saint set is crazy enough. After all, Sword Saint set can control all weapons within the Holy Tool tier. Even if it has an owner, it can forcibly seize it. Chapter 579. While the outside world was busy, Lee Tianyun was walking in the Heavenly Cloud's imperial capital. After a period of time, the whole situation had changed a lot, and it could be said that the establishment of the Heavenly Cloud's imperial capital was complete. With him in charge, no other forces dared to attack the Heavenly Cloud's imperial capital, especially after the 4 empires were eradicated. It could be said that Lee Tianyun's prestige rose to the extreme. However, it was said that there was a very powerful king in the Heavenly Dragon Empire, but no one said that the Mansion Lord of Heavenly Cloud's mansion was very powerful. After all, Lee Tianyun was there as a king, so the news was naturally biased towards the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Even so, those who knew more about the situation would know that Lee Tianyun also had another identity, which was the Mansion Lord of Heavenly Cloud's mansion. However, the most famous one was still the king of the Heavenly Dragon Empire. This made many people think that the Heavenly Dragon Empire was very powerful and had a super expert, not the Heavenly Cloud's mansion. Lee Tianyun didn't clarify this misunderstanding, and he didn't need to. In short, it was enough to let the outside world know that the Heavenly Dragon Empire and Heavenly Cloud's mansion weren't that easy to bully. Task completion requirements: 3 of 5 Void Spirit experts, Core Transformation experts, and Spirit Core experts, and build your own imperial capital. Because there is a Spirit King expert, all requirements are reduced by half. The condition of the mission was changed when he broke through to the Spirit King stage. In the past, he needed 50 core transformation experts, so the difficulty was obvious. Of course, as the reputation of the Heavenly Clouds Mansion increased, more and more people joined, including many core transformation experts. Therefore, the real data was far more than what was currently available, and it did not just refer to the number of missions that were presented. For example, there were more than 30 people who had more than 200 loyalty, but the task only showed that it was enough. Because of the halving effect, most of the cultivators met the requirements. After such a long period of cultivation, a large number of resources were used, and many cultivators' cultivation soared. In the past, there were many cultivators who were very talented, but because of the lack of resources, it was difficult for them to improve. Now that the situation has greatly improved, many cultivators rushed from core condensation to spirit core, and spirit core cultivators rushed to core transformation. In particular, the Spirit sect and the Empyrean Terminus sect, which had the strongest foundation, had the most cultivators successfully breaking through. Only the Void Spirit stage was more difficult. It would take a longer time to break through. We're still short of these two. How do we fill this gap? Tianyun frowned. He really wanted to finish this main quest as soon as possible so that he could know what the next main quest was. Could it be directly becoming a divine nation? He couldn't rule out this possibility, but the reward he would get after completing the mission was what he coveted the most. Brother E, we are here to see you. Renlong and Renjiro walked over with a smile on their faces. Although the Heavenly Dragon Empire was still very busy, they still took the time to visit the Heavenly Dragon Empire. You too are here. Tianyun smiled and said, Are you here for the Heavenly Clouds Imperial Capital? Yes, once the Heavenly Clouds Imperial Capital is established, it will become an empire. You will be crowned as a great emperor at that time. Renlong said with a smile, At that time, not only our Heavenly Dragon Empire will come to visit, but the great emperors of other empires will also come to visit in person. Tianyun narrowed his eyes. Although many people only knew him as a king, the great emperors of these empires definitely knew what his real identity was. Is that so? Then it will be very lively here. Tianyun said with a smile. It was really a shocking scene to have more than a dozen great emperors come to visit, but they had to give him face. Tianyun's status was like the sun in the sky, and if they didn't come to visit him, they would be in big trouble. Of course it will be lively. This is a very rare opportunity. So many great emperors have ascended the throne, but none of them have been as lively as you. You can fight against 4 empires alone, and they have no choice but to come. Renlong said with a sigh, It's only been a few days, but you have already broken through to such a high level. It's really hard for us to catch up with you. That's right, brother. How did you cultivate? You are so much stronger than before. You can even kill Spirit King stage experts with ease. Renjiro's beautiful eyes flashed with endless surprise. Looking at them, Tianyun suddenly had an idea. Why don't you join my Heavenly Clouds Mansion and become my guest elders? They were all stunned as they didn't expect Tianyun to say that. That's not a problem. But what's the difference between joining and joining now? Renlong was a little confused. They had a good relationship with each other, and they would immediately come to help whenever there was trouble. There was no need for them to become guest elders at all. On the other hand, guest elders weren't as firm as their current allies. You don't have to worry about that. Are you willing to join my Heavenly Cloud Mansion as a guest? Tianyun asked. He didn't care about the situation, he just wanted them to be his guest. This, Renlong and Renjiro looked at each other. They didn't know what Tianyun wanted to do, but they both nodded and said, Well, we will become your guest elders. Is that okay? Thank you, both of you. Tianyun laughed and said, From today on, you are Heavenly Clouds Mansion's guest elders. If Heavenly Clouds Mansion has any difficulties, please help us. Brother, what's wrong with you? Did you cultivate too much? Renjiro's beautiful eyes were full of worry. How did things suddenly become like this? Tianyun alone was enough to fight the 4 empires, so why would he need their help? Unless Tianyun was no longer here, but even if he wasn't here, there was no need for him to become a guest elder. Even if he didn't become a guest elder, he would still come to help. Ahem, it's nothing, it's nothing. Lee Yun smiled and immediately heard a pleasant voice in his ear. Reward, 100 million EXP, 500. 000 crazy points, 100. 000 SBS, 100. 000 SBS. Ding. Reward, 100 million EXP, 500,000. 000 CPS, 100,000. 000 CPS, 100,000. 000 SBS. Reward, 100 million EXP, 500,000. 000 CPS, 100,000. 000 CPS, 100,000. 000 CPS, 100,000. 000 SBS. Reward, 100 million EXP, 500,000. 000 CPS, 100,000. 000 CPS, 100,000. 000 CPS, 100,000. 000 SBS. He thought he could complete the task immediately, but he didn't know that it was divided into several steps. Heavenly Cloud's imperial capital was already built, so he could get the reward immediately. Chapter 580. Originally, Tianyun wanted to cultivate a few Void Spirit stage powerhouses, but when he saw the Ren siblings, he knew that they had a good impression of him. So he immediately wanted to drag them over. If he became a guest, it would be equivalent to joining the Heavenly Cloud's mansion. This loophole was also suitable for other cultivators, so it wouldn't be a problem for him to drag a few more ministers over. However, this task was divided into several steps, which were quite cumbersome. Fortunately, the EXP was not low, so it was better to complete this kind of task. Anyway, he could take it step by step, and in the end, he could still get all the rewards. Brother E, what's wrong? Renjiro saw that Tianyun was smiling before, but now he was lost in thought, and she didn't know what he was thinking. One moment he was crazy, and the next moment he was serious. Renjiro didn't know what Tianyun was thinking. It's nothing, just thinking about something. Hurry up and go in. Tianyun welcomed them in, and he also went to prepare. The next step was to wait for the coronation ceremony. He didn't have to worry about this, he just had to wait in the palace. A few days later, a steady stream of cultivators from all over the world gathered here, and most of them came to witness this moment. The Heavenly Cloud's mansion wanted to hold a coronation ceremony for Tianyun and establish the Heavenly Cloud's empire, so many cultivators came to see it. Other empires also came from all over the world, and in just a few days, they quickly gathered in the Heavenly Cloud's imperial capital. On the day before the coronation ceremony, the entire Heavenly Cloud's imperial capital was extremely lively, and it was the most crowded since its founding. With so many cultivators gathered here, of course, it was very lively. The most important thing was that the powerhouses of the empires came to visit, which was the highlight of the event. On this day, Tianyun sat on the throne, looking at the powerhouses of the empires who came to visit him one by one. This humble one is Luo Yun Empire's great emperor Lu Yun, and I came to visit Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. This humble one is Xian Yun, great emperor of Whirling Cloud Empire, and I came to visit Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. This humble one is, one by one, the great emperors of the empires came in person, but not all of them were at the Spirit King stage. The great emperors of the lower-ranked empires weren't at the Spirit King stage, but they were at least at the Void Spirit stage. This wasn't surprising, it didn't mean that one had to be a Spirit King stage powerhouse to become a great emperor. However, their old ancestor should be a Spirit King stage powerhouse. Without a Spirit King stage powerhouse, they wouldn't be able to suppress an empire. The great emperors of the empires at the front were all at the Spirit King stage, and they were very respectful in front of Tianyun. Tianyun knew that they were being so respectful because he had destroyed the 4 great empires. If it was before this, they would definitely not have come. At most, some second and third rank forces would come over to congratulate him. Most of them wouldn't even bother with him. This was the importance of power. Yi Tianyun smiled and welcomed them one by one. He never slapped a smiling person, so when the other party came over respectfully, he would definitely give him some face. Most of the great emperors of the empires had come in person, but the first and second-ranked empires didn't come. They were the World Dragon Empire and the Heaven Primordial Empire. These two empires had been sitting firmly in the first and second position for thousands of years. According to the rumors, the World Dragon Empire had 5 kings, and the Heaven Primordial Empire had 4 kings. In fact, the Heaven Primordial Empire had 4 kings. Just the World Dragon Empire alone had 5 spirit kings, so they had the capital to be arrogant. The Heaven Primordial Empire was also the same. In comparison, the Netherworld Empire was just a piece of trash. In fact, the Netherworld Empire wasn't very strong, but the divine nations behind them were the strongest. Otherwise, with how arrogant they would have long been destroyed by the other empires. Most of the time, they didn't need to be strong. As long as they had a strong backing, it would be enough to suppress everything. As for the empires with 1 and 2 spirit kings, they also came to congratulate Yi Tianyun, but they still came to congratulate him. Great Emperor, except for the World Dragon Empire and the Heaven Primordial Empire, the other great emperors have come. Yi Qingxian whispered. I know. Yi Tianyun didn't care if they didn't come. As long as they didn't provoke him, he wouldn't kill them. When the other empires felt that the two empires didn't give them face, a voice came from outside the palace. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor has come to congratulate you. An exciting news came from outside the gate. Many great emperors looked at the door with awe in their eyes. A handsome middle-aged man walked in from the outside. He walked step by step with his hands behind his back. His speed was neither fast nor slow, and every step he took seemed to integrate with the world. At this moment, it was as if he was the real protagonist, attracting everyone's attention and stealing the limelight from Yi Tianyun. The Heaven Primordial Empire's name was too famous, and even the third-ranked empires were too far away from it. Many people thought that the Heaven Primordial Empire wouldn't bother to come, but in the end, the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor came in person, which surprised many people. It seems like he was shocked by Yi Tianyun's prestige. Heaven Primordial Great Emperor, 6th Layer Spirit King stage, wearing high-grade sacred tool armor, and possesses the ancient god's bloodline. Martial arts, heavenly primordial divine palm, tyrannical dragon art, etc. Weaknesses, non-comprehensive combat power, 600 million, without ancient god's bloodline, killing can obtain, 6th Layer Spirit King stage with ancient god's bloodline. Compared to the Dragon Clan bloodline, the ancient god bloodline was extremely overbearing. It was a few times stronger than the ordinary Dragon Clan bloodline. Only the true dragon race's bloodline can be compared to it. There are many bloodlines in this world, and the dragon race's bloodline is just one of them. There are other bloodlines that are stronger than the dragon race, such as the ancient god's bloodline. The ancient god's bloodline is actually a kind of divine blood. Whether it is recovery or explosive power, it is stronger than the dragon race. It is an extremely rare bloodline, unique to the Heaven Primordial Empire. I'm sorry I'm late. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor smiled slightly and said, I didn't expect that the newly ascended Great Emperor would look so young. This is unexpected. Our generation is getting old, and we can't keep up with the pace. Don't say that. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor is also young. He is only 40 years old, but he has already broken through to the Spirit King stage. He is really a monstrous genius. Yes. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor also has the ancient god's bloodline. It is really hard to find an opponent. One by one, the great emperors of the Heaven Primordial Empire immediately greeted the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. Suddenly, they felt that the main character of this coronation ceremony was not Yi Tianyun, but the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. Chapter 581. Thank you, Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. It's my honor to be able to attend this coronation ceremony. Yi Tianyun said calmly. What ancient god's bloodline? What 6th Layer Spirit King stage? As long as it doesn't cause any conflict with him, he doesn't care. Even if he has the ancient god's bloodline, he will still be killed by Yi Tianyun. N. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor nodded slightly and didn't say anything. He then sat down on the seat beside him, followed by his entourage. Everyone's cultivation was not low. Their attitude was quite casual, as if they were here to attend Yi Tianyun's coronation ceremony. Yi Tianyun frowned. Do these guys really think that I'm invincible just because I'm a little polite? But thinking about it, as an empire that has been standing for many years, although Yi Tianyun has been in the limelight recently, it's not a big problem for him to deal with 4 empires. Therefore, they have the capital to be arrogant, unlike the other empires who flatter Yi Tianyun. This time, he was here to see the domineering new great emperor, to see what kind of standard he had. However, Tianyun was too lazy to care about it. As long as they don't provoke him, it's fine. After the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor sat down, his entourage immediately served him tea. During this time, he looked at Yi Tianyun from head to toe and shook his head. So young, I wonder how strong his cultivation is. I heard that he also knows demonic arts. I'm afraid there's someone behind him? The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor didn't think that Yi Tianyun has this kind of ability. It's possible that there's a super strong expert behind him that could suppress so many great emperors. Yi Tianyun looked too young. Although his cultivation could make him look younger, there's something that can't be concealed, and that's his blood qi. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor could feel that Yi Tianyun was really young, and he didn't deliberately make himself look younger. To put it bluntly, he was just pretending to be young. However, the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor didn't mean to cause trouble. He just wanted to see what was going on with Yi Tianyun. Great Emperor, it seems like the World Dragon Empire did not come. An old man said in a low voice. World Dragon Empire. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor's eyes flickered. They had always wanted to surpass the World Dragon Great Emperor, but the gap between them was still too wide. The Empire's 5 kings weren't that easy to woo. It was already good enough that they had 4 kings. This was not the ghost world, so it was not easy to cultivate here. So, having more than 4 Spirit King stage cultivators was already considered as heaven-defying. The key was whether their cultivation was strong or not. If they were both at the first layer of Spirit King stage, it would be really bad. For them to be so sturdy, it meant that their cultivation was not too low. At the very least, they were at the 5th or 6th layer. Some of them might even be at the peak level. While they were discussing, a summons came from outside. The envoy of the World Dragon Empire has arrived, the guard outside shouted. An envoy from the World Dragon Empire? When they heard the name World Dragon Empire, they thought that the World Dragon Empire's great emperor would come in person. They didn't expect that they would send an envoy. Immediately, a man walked in from outside. His cultivation wasn't high, he was only at the Void Spirit stage, but he looked very arrogant. He glanced at the participants around him, and he was surprised when he saw the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. He didn't expect that the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor would come in person. Greetings, Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. The envoy came in front of the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor and bowed respectfully. He completely ignored the other great emperors, including the Spirit King stage Great Emperor. Well, the World Dragon Great Emperor didn't come, but he sent you to participate in the coronation ceremony? The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor felt that the World Dragon Great Emperor was too arrogant, but he had to admit that the World Dragon Great Emperor had the capital to be arrogant. If he did this, he would undoubtedly fall out with the Heavenly Cloud's empire, which was not a good choice. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor thought that he wasn't afraid of the World Dragon Great Emperor, but he still wanted to make friends with the World Dragon Great Emperor. You will know this later. The World Dragon Empire's envoy said with a smile. After bowing to the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor, he turned around and went back to the aisle. He completely ignored the other great emperors, which made many great emperors unhappy. However, they could only swallow their anger. Who told them to be so weak? The Heaven Primordial Empire was the only Heaven Primordial Empire that the World Dragon Empire didn't care about. The World Dragon Empire's envoy was extremely arrogant, and he didn't put them in his eyes at all. Sure enough, after staying in this great empire for a long time, they became extremely arrogant. Yi Tianyun's expression didn't change when he saw the envoy, but he was a little displeased in his heart. The World Dragon Empire's envoy looked at Yi Tianyun without the slightest respect. His attitude towards the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor was much worse than his attitude towards the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. It was as if the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor was the real Great Emperor, and Yi Tianyun was only at the Void Spirit stage, which was the same as him. Then, the envoy took out a scroll and spread it in front of Yi Tianyun. The World Dragon Great Emperor requests that you don't ascend to the throne today. You must obtain our approval before you can ascend to the throne. You can ascend to the throne only after you have obtained our approval. His words caused an uproar. The World Dragon Empire was too arrogant. Why did they have to go to the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor to approve the ascension of the throne? The great emperors looked at each other in confusion. They had never encountered such a situation before. Why did the World Dragon Empire have to interfere with the ascension of Yi Tianyun? It was obvious that the World Dragon Empire didn't want Yi Tianyun to ascend to the throne immediately. Does that mean that I have to wait for the World Dragon Empire's approval before I ascend to the throne? Yi Tianyun looked at the envoy with an indifferent expression. Yes, this is the order of the World Dragon Great Emperor. Please go to the World Dragon Empire and make your decision. If you don't obey the order, don't blame the World Dragon Empire for not giving you face. The envoy's tone was cold. Although he was standing on the ground, he looked as if he was sitting on the throne. The World Dragon Empire didn't give Yi Tianyun any face. So many great emperors had come to congratulate Yi Tianyun, but the World Dragon Empire didn't give Yi Tianyun any face. Yi Tianyun raised his hand in the void, and an invisible force slapped the messenger away. The messenger was sent flying and hit several tables before he could stop. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? Yi Tianyun looked at the envoy coldly and said, How dare you hit me? I am the envoy of the World Dragon Empire. I represent the World Dragon Empire. Pa! Yi Tianyun slapped the envoy again. The envoy was pinned to the ground and couldn't move. Chapter 582. How dare a mere envoy act so arrogantly in front of him? To put it bluntly, even a dog from the World Dragon Empire dared to bark in front of him. It had to be said that the World Dragon Empire was responsible for letting an envoy act so arrogantly. If it wasn't for the World Dragon Empire, how could the envoy speak in such an arrogant tone? From the beginning, the envoy didn't put the World Dragon Empire in his eyes and even ordered the World Dragon Empire not to ascend the throne for the time being. A dog of the World Dragon Empire. This sentence resounded throughout the hall and shocked many great emperors. Although the envoy was just an envoy, the World Dragon Empire was behind him. If it was them, they wouldn't dare to do such a thing. After all, it was equivalent to slapping the World Dragon Empire in the face. If they provoked the World Dragon Empire, it would be really troublesome. Wait for me to report this to the Great Emperor. How dare you disobey the World Dragon Great Emperor's order? A small empire without any foundation dares to act so arrogantly. When the time comes, the World Dragon Great Emperor will surely die. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold as he pressed his palm down on the envoy of the World Dragon Empire. Instantly, the envoy of the World Dragon Empire was flattened into meat paste. The Great Emperor's faces changed. It wasn't because of Yi Tianyun's strength. As long as their cultivation reached the Spirit King stage, they could easily crush a Void Spirit stage cultivator. The important thing was that Yi Tianyun had killed the envoy of the World Dragon Empire. As the saying goes, don't kill the envoy of the World Dragon Empire. Impulsive. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor shook his head. Too impulsive. Too arrogant. It's normal for him to be a little arrogant. I'm afraid that he will become the enemy of the World Dragon Empire by killing the envoy of the World Dragon Empire. That's right. He might think that he is invincible just because he has a strong expert behind him. Although there are a lot of Spirit King stage cultivators in the 4 empires that were destroyed, they are just small fries. The old man next to him shook his head. Originally, the Great Emperor wanted to befriend him, but it seems that there is no need for that anymore. I'm afraid that this new empire will soon be destroyed. Well, if he had endured it for a while and went to the World Dragon Empire, he could still come back and ascend the throne. From the looks of it, he's angry because this envoy is too arrogant. The Heaven Emperor shook his head and said, "This will only bring about the destruction of the country." "Yes, look, so many empires are leaving." The old man sighed and glanced at Lee Tianyun, his eyes filled with mockery. He might seem arrogant, but he would know the consequences of being arrogant in the future. "Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, we will take our leave first, us too. We still have some matters to attend to in the empire, so we'll be taking our leave first. We are also..." Many of the empire's factions and third-grade factions retreated. They didn't dare to stay here and wait for the World Dragon Empire to ascend the throne. This would definitely offend the Heavenly Cloud's empire, but they would rather offend the Heavenly Cloud's empire than the World Dragon Empire. The two of them were not on the same level, and they knew how to distinguish the pros and cons. Lee Tianyun did not get angry, nor did he care about them. He just let them leave. This is too impatient. Provoking the World Dragon Empire will only result in death. That's right. Although the four empires are powerful, it would be a piece of cake for the World Dragon Empire to destroy them. Forget it, let's leave quickly. If we are late, it will be too late. The Heavenly Cloud's mansion will be finished. After leaving, everyone talked in private. They were originally here to congratulate the Heavenly Cloud's mansion, but now they decided to leave quickly. It would be too late if they were treated as the Heavenly Cloud's mansion's ally. Soon, only the Heavenly Dragon Empire was left in the huge temple. In the end, the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor shook his head and left. He was too lazy to talk to Tianyun, and his eyes were filled with disdain. The reason was simple: everyone thought that the Heavenly Cloud's empire would be destroyed. "Brother Ki..." Renlong smiled bitterly and shook his head. He didn't expect this to happen. Now that he was facing the behemoth of the World Dragon Empire, it would put him in a difficult position. "Big Brother Ren, I know what you are thinking. You just want to compromise and go to the World Dragon Empire. Maybe they will let me come back and ascend the throne." Lee Tianyun sneered and said, "I'm afraid that the World Dragon Empire will make me their puppet, and I will have to listen to them in the future. Of the four empires that I eradicated, I reckon that a few empires are related to them, and are subordinate empires to them. Otherwise, why would they treat me like this? They have been sitting in this position for too long. Do they really think that they are invincible? It's too naive to think that everyone will listen to them." Lee Tianyun's eyes flashed coldly. He didn't mind the war in this aspect at all. Now that he had enough power, they couldn't blame him for being ruthless. If that's the case, then there is no other way. Renlong shook his head and said, "We will always be your strong support and fight with you until the end." "Great Emperor Ren?" The ministers behind Renlong looked at him in horror. They couldn't believe what they heard. This was the World Dragon Empire, not some third-grade faction in the corner of the world. "You can't. If the World Dragon Empire attacks us, our Heavenly Dragon Empire will be finished." One by one, the ministers tried to persuade Lee Tianyun. They felt that they shouldn't get involved in this mess. "Without King Yi, do you think the Heavenly Dragon Empire will still exist?" Renlong looked at them coldly and said, "Although you are not swayed by your emotions, if you don't choose to stand by our side in the most critical moment, who will be willing to ally with you in the future?" But the ministers still shook their heads. Only a fool would talk about loyalty at this time. They should say that it was their own fault. Who could blame them? If he lowered his head, then so be it. A man should know when to yield or when to stand tall. So what if he became a puppet? At least he could live. "We are willing to follow any instructions from the great emperor. Let alone the World Dragon Empire, we are even willing to attack the divine nation." Yi Qingxian chuckled. Not only her, but the spirit race old ancestor and the others also nodded in agreement. Lee Tianyun is the reason why they can have such a status. Whether it's reckless or courting death, they are willing to go through fire and water. Crazy! Crazy! The ministers felt that these people were not rational at all. They were a bunch of lunatics. Continue with the coronation ceremony and announce to the world that Heavenly Cloud's mansion has officially become an empire. Lee Tianyun didn't say anything. He knew very well that he could see a lot of things from this. The Heavenly Dragon Empire was still an ally, and the people around him were still as loyal as ever. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.